When you go to Kemet school, you became more alert. You made a wake up, your spirit wake up. And you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. When you study what we call classical studies, we must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Netcher. In Kemet, for me, is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.
Black African power was good, was happening, a well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth every time. Ooh, wait. Man, let me just get straight to it, man. So we just sit up here and New York Reggie did his thing for 2.5 hours. All I want to know is, did they break the rule? Brother Reggie, that was some lethal sleeper shit right there, bro. I'm gonna let you know, y'all. Based off what I heard, y'all, I'm gonna say you won. But all I want to know is, did Asar Imhotep and Wudjau break the rule that you talking about for an hour? I just want to know. So I'm gonna go ahead and defer the floor, right? I don't think you're gonna make it, Reggie, but now it's our turn, right? It's our turn. Go ahead, Wudjau. I wanna know about this rule. Can anybody share some light on this rule that supposedly sunk the ship?
Oh well, first let me say this. The brother Reggie. First of all, it's really good and refreshing that to hear a presentation, period, because in the midst of what we're used to seeing on Facebook and stuff like that, it's good that that we get to see presentations, first of all. But I want to say that the brother Reggie's presentation was addressing Asar Imhotep, and he mentioned my name a couple of times, and I noticed that Reggie was very careful not to say that I didn't know grammar or the rules or anything and everything, and we both know why. But I'm gonna defer over to Asar Imhotep first, and then whatever Asar Imhotep doesn't cover, then I'll come and put the icing on everything and give everybody a nice lesson in grammar, free lesson in grammar and things like that, and hopefully Reggie will be able to benefit. So, sorry, I got this screen up, so I don't know if you have anything to share. You can share your screen, but
yeah, I'll share my screen.
All right, so I'll put it back on you.
I'm gonna share my entire screen.
Oh, but before, well, you can share it. You can go ahead and do that. Let me just like I did with the brother Reggie. I want to make sure that everyone's clear. Again, this is what the issue and question was not. All right. Does the word black exist as an adjective in ancient Egyptian language? Can we find cognizance of the adjective black in related African languages? Nobody's disputing the first point, the second point, third point. Did the Ancient Egyptians used color terms to describe a person or a thing. No one's disputing that. That's not part of the question or an issue. Lastly, do classifiers have to be present for every attestation of a word? So none of these 4 points is in dispute or part of the issue or the question or the topic. So the audience, you be the judge. Did the brother Reggie talk about these 4 issues that are not really issues and talked about the issue at hand? So I'll leave that question on the floor, but I'm going to yield over to the brother Asar Imhotep.
Peace, peace, peace. Thank you, everyone, again for tuning in and listening. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your presence. We heard the argument from our good brother Reggie, and I have to personally say I'm disappointed because it's clear that he does not understand the debate and the argument. And we listened to 2.5 hours of him dancing around the argument, but I know why that is the case. And this is, in part based on some of our private conversations. And he will readily admit that he is not a linguist. And so this is a linguistic question. And so we're asking about the semantics. We're asking about, can you demonstrate that in the word Kemet, for the place name, the nation, the toponym, that the root of it is Kim, black, versus any of the other Kim roots that exist in the language? That's the question. It's simple. But because he doesn't have a background in linguistics, he can't answer that question. He doesn't have the tools to answer that question. And we saw, as a result of not having that background, the dancing and talking about issues that aren't issues at all. We're talking about semantics here. There's a whole field of linguistics called semantics. And we can include semiotics in this. And so what we have here is basically like a mechanic trying to enter into a conversation on rocket science. And Reggie has stepped into an arena that is admittedly not his field. And so he doesn't have the tools, he doesn't have the whereabouts to be able to solve this problem. And so we know that this is the case, and this is the same case with our good brother Netcher, who is in the recruitment office on his way to basic training in linguistics. He's not there yet. And so in the meantime, all they can do is appeal to authority. Well, I studied and listened to John Henry Clark, and I read Dr. Ben, and I read Dr. Diop, and I know Rickety Amin. They always name drop. You only name drop when you don't have the skills to stand on your own 2 feet. You're not mature enough in the subject that you can do that. And so there was a reason why I never addressed Netcher in the first video. It's because I don't have to. The information stands on itself. I can do this without name dropping anyone because I have that skill set. And so we're going to deal with that in this particular discussion. And I think he's unaware that I actually had 2 discussions after the discussion that we had with Netcher, clearing up some things for some folks. And so shameless plug, for those who want to know why linguistics is important to Africana studies, to the field of classical Africology, I encourage you to visit my website, www.asarimhotep.com, and sign up for my Introduction to Linguistics course. In 2019, at the end of 2019, I will introduce 2 courses on historical comparative linguistics, but you have to get the basics in linguistics first before we can go there. So also with me being a computer scientist, I stress the emphasis on science. And when we're having discussions like this, there's a few axioms, there's a few things we always have to keep in mind when we're doing scientific work. And so I want to introduce to the lay community this concept called reliability. And so reliability is the degree of consistency of a measure. A test will be reliable when it gives the same repeated result under the same conditions. Psychologists consider three types of consistency. Over time, that means that the test or retest reliability, across items, internal consistency, and across different researchers, inter-rater reliability. And so we're going to have some discussion on reliability in terms of our instruments regarding this question. Dealing with the internal consistency, and we'll see why this is going to be important later on in our discussion. Internal consistency, for example, has to deal with reliability within the system itself. How reliable is this measure within the system itself? And so to give you a bit of an example here, if you was to create a quiz to measure students' ability to solve quadratic equations, you should be able to assume that if a student gets an item correct, that he or she will also get other similar items correct. So you can change the appearance of a phenomenon, but if they are still right and exact, they should be able to recognize that it's the same underlying function to be able to solve that problem. And so it's the same thing that we're going to deal with here in this discussion here. So dealing with validity, it refers to the accuracy of an assessment, whether or not it measures what it is supposed to measure. Even if a test is reliable, it may not provide a valid measure, whether the information relates to the problem or the hypothesis being investigated. So I mentioned earlier, what the actual research question is, what the debate is. And so he's making a whole bunch of arguments that are invalid because they don't address the actual subject being discussed here. And so we'll demonstrate that as well. So dealing with accuracy, this means that if you can find similar information in at least two valid and reliable sources, then your information could be considered accurate. We're addressing whether the information can be substantiated in more than one reliable source. Therefore, is the information consistent with information from other reputable sources? And so this issue of accuracy, you have to proceed with caution, because you can find, for example, consensus on something, and they could be called reliable sources, but the foundation for which the information is argued could be wrong. For example, I don't think this is a problem with anyone on the line right now, but there's a time where all the early sources argued that the ancient Egyptians were white people, basically from Europe. And so those are reliable sources. However, the information was inaccurate. So in science, it's always about demonstration. Demonstration beats conversation. How can you determine something to be true, in terms of the premise? So that's what we'll be dealing with. Can y'all hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
just real quick. Hopefully, same thing. Those who are watching, if you can press 1, if you can hear and see clearly. I just want to make sure, but so you can continue. I'll just see what people are saying.
Okay. So when it comes to the ancient Egyptian culture and writing script, why do you think that all of the people who deal with Egyptology in Africa also have a background in linguistics? Is that a coincidence? Why is linguistics so important to the study of ancient text in the culture? And so we have a linguist, an Egyptologist, and theologian by the name of Modupe Oduyoye, who wrote a text, Words and Meaning in Yoruba Religion. the connections between the Yoruba, Semitic, and Egyptian language. And on page 22, he says this. He says, any student of African beliefs or of any, this thing is blocking my view. Okay, pre-literate society who does not have this tool, talking about philology and linguistics, is severely handicapped. Any researcher who undervalues it does so at his own peril. For language has preserved for us the inner living history of a man's soul. Emphasize living. Language has been described as the oldest living witness to history. Without linguistic corroboration, archaeological evidence is tantalizingly inaccurate. And here is a challenge, to use Professor Idowu's words. Each one of us must get to know his or her own people thoroughly and approach their belief reverently and sympathetically, because we possess that which is the key to their soul, their language. So you have a lot of researchers, especially, this is why the people who deal with Egyptology, the African Americans here, are so behind, is because they don't have the tool of linguistics to make certain arguments better. And so I wanted to stress this for the public. So this is a teaching moment. So I'm taking this time to introduce the lay public to some concepts that we have to deal with here. So this is going to be important here. The plural strokes, for example. Now, the plural strokes are often argued or excuse me, I should just say the three strokes, which are often defined as a plural. But it can be a plural, but in most instances, it is a classifier. It is not part of the root. And so here are a few examples of what I mean here, and you'll see why this is going to be important. So we see this word here, the jet, surf. This is a singular noun, also suffixed by the T. It's a singular noun, but we have two graphemes, a male and a seated, the seated man and the seated woman, followed by the plural strokes. If we went by and argued that this was plural, this should be serfs. But that is not the case. Why is that? Same thing with this word here, this phrase here, remech izet, workmen. Again, a singular man classifier with the three strokes classifier, as well as the, well, this one has a singular stroke before. But to read this literally with the idea that these always represent plural, we should render this workmen, but it's not workmen. It is a workman in the singular. Same thing with this conscript, this phrase here, remech mashai, and the same thing with remech neb, anyone, someone, somebody. Why the plural here? This is going to be important. Here's some other words where we get to see some, we get to get some clarity on this plural, so-called plural stroke, these plural three strokes here. So you see this root here, this verb, you know, iri, to adore. Then you have iru or irawa, adoration. Notice that you have the suffix here. So you have this root, and then you have this suffix, this W suffix, adoration. Now, it just has a singular, this is a shorter version of this bottom version here, which is the longer version. Notice you have the papyrus scroll of abstract, and then you have the plural strokes here. This is not a plural word. This is not adorations. This is adoration. This represents, and it coincides with the actual language itself, the grammar for the abstract. This W is a suffix of the abstract. Same thing here with to bring, any. And then you have inu. This is where you got the extra new here. for production, because new is also a grammatical suffix for the abstract. And we can demonstrate that at another time. But you see here, to bring, and then production and tribute, abstract concepts, ideas. Same thing with hikaru, hunger, exaltation. This is not plural words here. And this is because I took this from another lesson from our good brother Wudjau. So he had something else in mind, but I wanted to stress this. So this word heti here doesn't fall in line with this. This is for something else. But I'm showing you here that these plural strokes have to deal with abstractness. And this is this comes from an idea, a class of location. For those who write and actually write articles and things of that nature, there's several software that we use to bring the hieroglyphic script to the forefront. And one of them is Sesh. And so in the Sesh software, you have the Sesh editor, and they'll tell you what certain glyphs, what the function is, their pronunciations, if they have one, and other little detailed information. So the Z2, that is the classifier that we're looking at, the three strokes here. The Z2 is tell you right here, it's it can be a phonogram and an ideogram. And it says here under the sign description, determinative for plural, as we noted, or the abstract. It says avoid for numbers. So you don't apply this, when it comes to the numbers. And so this is the abstract. This is important because he showed my slide, but he didn't get into why the slide was presented. And so notice that this word Kemet here has the graphemes of the seated man and the seated woman, like we saw before, and this abstract. This is not a plural. This has nothing to do with people. And you get that sense when you actually read the text with it in. So it was after he had ruled Egypt and after he had put the desert in his company that he came to us. It was after he had protected the two lands, that's the Tawi here, and after he had pacified the two banks, Idibwe right here, that he came to us. It was after he had caused Egypt, Kemet again, right here, to live, and after he had removed its needs. It's referring in the singular, showing that this is singular, not plural, and it's referring to a place. There is no description here of people. And there's a reason why I have this S highlighted in red here. The way that this passage is worded lets us know that it is talking about the state as a political entity and not the Nisbe adjective form Kemetiu, those of Kemet. This is supported by the fact that Kemet is used in the same manner as all of the other political locations in the text. The name Desheret, Tawi, and Idibwe in the original text does not employ personal determinatives. Furthermore, after the second sentence containing the word Kemet, it refers back to the word Kemet by means of a third person singular feminine suffix pronoun, its. If it spoke about the people, we would expect sin, their, they, them, not it. So we want to talk about grammar and grammar rules, but he never wants to examine the actual word in the actual sentence and how the other grammatical features in the sentence reaffirms the place of the word in the sentence. So this has nothing to do with people in the sense of this allegedly describing the classifiers. That's not how classifiers work. And you can tell that our brother is handicapped and he's old and he's still dealing with old, outdated stuff because he doesn't understand what a classifier is and its functions of a classifier. These are class. This is a class language, and the classifiers are a result of it being a class language. It's telling you what class it belongs to. The nation, the abstract concept of a nation. There's nowhere you can interpret this as plural or people. It's not talking about the inhabitants of the nation. So we'll continue, and I'll have another. So of course, when we talk about the classifiers, I said that these are the earliest renditions of the word Kemet. And in linguistics, we have this concept called a minimum pair. This is how we can distinguish one word from another in the language. And now I'm gonna have a whole separate presentation on the 049 glyph and why the 049 glyph is actually another form of the irrigated land glyph. And this has to deal with water. But I'm not gonna get too much into that, I don't need to. But you can see just how we do minimum pairs in linguistics, we could do minimum pairs with classifiers. And if we can substitute one classifier for the other and the meaning of the word does not change, that means these two concepts interchange. This is important. As we've already discussed 100,000 times, which no one addresses, is that Kemet is a toponym and never refers to a place. Now, it's interesting that, that they bring up Diop's arguments, because Diop is arguing that it has nothing to do with Black land, that it has to do with Black people. But they're trying to argue it's both. So they're going against Diop the same way that I'm allegedly going against Diop. Because Diop doesn't argue for Black land. He argues against Black land. But that's another topic for another day. And so, again, here are some toponyms, classifiers, you know, in the languages. And so the concept of determinative is becoming waned out, because the concept of a determinative does not accurately describe what the classifiers are. So there's a whole bunch of literature on Egyptian classifiers now. And so, you know, our good brother Reggie needs to update his research. So now, the reason why the classifiers are very important is because it tells you what class the word belongs in. There's no it qualifying anything. It's I'm going to have to wait on that full lecture, because you'll just have to see it from the raw text and the literature in Egyptology. So you can tell that he really doesn't keep up with Egyptological literature, because he doesn't really present at Egyptological conferences. He doesn't publish in these things, so he doesn't have to keep up with this stuff. And so this word, this D3 glyph, is the quintessential classifier for Blackness. And it tells you, and it goes by several different pronunciations, because each pronunciation focuses on a different concept within the word. So you'll see this as the sole ideogram for the word Inwun, for complexion, color, nature, disposition, skin of a man or animal. It's also in the word for character, reputation, and the cognate for this in Chiluba is chikuma, characteristic character for this word here. And I go through the sound correspondences in the text. So we can see, as we know, the word Kim, that means black, terminated by this classifier. And so Kemet, the Black woman Isis, here's the source. And so I'm just letting y'all know that this is a color determinative or classifier. And so here's another one, the N33 glyph. And you can see it in these words here for black eye paint or red color of plants. Now, there's a reason why this is important here. The Egyptians don't have many words for color. If you study African languages and African people in general and study their color terms, you'll come to find out that they don't have words in their language for color as an abstract concept. They are all referencing a particular object that is a good general representation of that color. Is somebody trying to say something?
No, you're good.
Okay. I thought I heard something. So that's why the word for flamingo is the word for red, and why red is typically terminated by this classifier. But in the general sense, also classified by the N33. Same thing with blue, same thing with yellow. But what they're saying here is that, for example, if I said red paint, I'm saying that this paint is the color of the flamingo. That's how you would say it in the language. Same thing with white here. You notice this is terminated by the sun. This is talking about bright white light. And the color for green is the representation of plants. And then when they want to talk about it abstractly, they use the N33. And so the same thing with the color for black. It has to deal with hair. It's the color of hair. That's why this is the representation of it. And so notice that each one of these colors are the representation, for the most part, at least the ones that have, how should I say, the pictorial classifiers of the actual object itself. And so this is the word. So we're saying here that this word Kim is actually also the word for hair in the language. And then there was a sound shift and there was a sound shift in the language, and it became a different pronunciation later on, going into the mid-Old Kingdom, going into the Middle Kingdom. And so here's another bit of information that's going to be very important in this context. And so this is from Goldwasser's article on why classifiers, titled "Why Classifiers Are Important." And so this is a whole article. She's written whole books. There's a whole school of people, especially in the German Egyptologists and things of this nature. She's actually from Israel, that talks about these classifiers. And so I just want to, I'll just read this whole thing. So in many cases, the classifier directs the reader to specific aspects of the knowledge structure, and the end product of the reading process is a highlighted frame of knowledge. In many cases, this extra information relays sociocultural or institutional perceptions. This knowledge is attached to individual nouns themselves and is usually not context sensitive. For example, in the word widow, the two classifiers, the last two signs right here, highlight two aspects of widowhood. The first is the hieroglyph, the D33, is a metonymic classifier, is a cultural referent referring the reader to mourning rituals in ancient Egypt, in which women's hair played an important role. The second classifier refers to a universal generic classification of the widow, which is not culture bound, but a universal semantic feature of the lexeme, widow. Therefore, a widow is a kind of female. Thus, so this is the cultural aspect, and this is just the generic classifier to let you know what this deals with. So we know that the falling hair has to deal with widowhood culturally amongst the ancient Egyptians. And so this classifier functions in a way like a female gender marker. Okay. So continue. In another spelling of the word, the hair classifier is replaced with the bad bird, while the same gender classifier is used at the end. This classifier, which originally designated a category small, acquired the extended meaning negative from the Middle Kingdom onwards. Camerzel correctly defined the use of this classifier in the New Kingdom as a non-iconic classifier constituting a hypercategory of events that states which were regarded as negative or undesirable. So just like with our minimal pairs that I spoke of earlier, which I'm going to have a whole presentation on, these operate as minimal pairs because they both, in this context, designate something negative. Let's continue. So I want to demonstrate that the D3 hair glyph was pronounced Kim. And so we have records in personal names. And this is the source. For example, BB Kim and Behez Kim. BB, this is the glyphs here, the foot glyphs for B, and Behez. And these are Kim. So this helps to demonstrate that that this is Kim. So the concept of black being associated with the hair is a direct consequence of the word, the original pronunciation of this glyph being Kim. Why is this important? Because the concept of Kim blackness derives from the color of the hair. Now, let's do some linguistics, that unimportant stuff that Reggie wants to skip over. So in language, remember that ancient Kemet as a political state, the unification of the two lands, existed well over 3,000 years. In 3,000 years, you develop dialects. And even though they're using a single script, the dialectical forms of words are going to make themselves known. And as a matter of method, how can we tell when something is a dialectical variant? Because we can create a set, and we're going to use set theory here. We create a set of corresponding words, and the sound correspondences to the far right in the far right column. So you have Kemet here, complete I. Then you have Gemhach, I, to catch sight of, Gemi, to find, to discover. One thing about the ancient Egyptian language is first is monosyllabic. And anything past two consonants in sequence is a grammatical morpheme. You only know this if you study linguistics and you pay attention to the script. And so this W is another variation. So this is a partial reduplication and the M becomes W. This informs us that there were two vowels in between surrounding this M. So it became W. It's a process called lenition. So Sekem, Kim, destruction, annihilation. This S is a nominalizer. This is not a causative prefix. This is a nominalizer. This is the original so-called feminine T in the language. We deal with that in the book. And so the verb here, gim, to smash, to break, to tear. Kim, duty, profit. Gim, invoice, sum, account. Kimiyit, food. Gim, produce, product. Again, the W, because of the two vowels, weakens it. And this other suffix here gives it a different connotation for bread. So a mineral, kimu, a mineral, a kemat, special shaped stone as part of a doorway. You can see that they both have the same classifiers. I just don't have the glyphs up here. And so kimu also a substance and medical. Kimiyet, a herd of cattle. Gu, a bull. Kimiyet, a jar. Genet, a jar. And so M and N interchange in Egyptian. Why is this important? Because here is a cognate, a dialectical variant of the word Kim for hair. So you have Gimehet here, lock, hair braid, temple. Notice again that the word here can also deal with the word for widow. So Gimehet, widow, and also the same classifier at the end. So we just read that from the one source here. And so I want to highlight, because I spoke in another lecture, and I've had this conversation with Brother Reggie about repetition. When we was dealing with the concept of reliability and it has to deal with the repeatableness and internal validity. This is where all this stuff comes into play. And so this word here, jahab, coal black. See, people say coal black and think that the word means the blackness comes from coal. That's not the case at all. It says clearly here, coal black from the hair, just like the other black Kim coming from hair. This is in the German dictionary. Schwarz vom Haar, vom from hair, from the hair, coal black. So it's telling you that the word, the jahab for black, the other word for black in the language comes from the hair. And from this, then you get blackness concept of blacken with charcoal. But it's not from charcoal itself, it's from hair, from the hair. And we know that this root here, remember what I said, if you have for example, a so-called triliteral, two of the consonants are going to be the root. And the third one, whether it's a prefix or a suffix, is going to be the grammatical morpheme. So this j is the grammatical morpheme. We know because we have a different variant of the word where it's now prefixed by I, or this variant of Y or the J, if you want to say, and also suffixed by W. It's a sign of mourning, which means loosened or unkept hair. So the root has to deal with hair, not cold. With the prefix, it has other connotations. So this becomes important for the other work. So now we have demonstrated that Kim means hair. And so it explains why the other pronunciation for Kim is shin, because shin is a other dialectical variation of the word Kim. And how can we prove this? Demonstration beats conversation. So we have Kim hair, shinny hair, Kimmy a snake, shinech a snake, Kim a vessel, shinny a vessel, Kimiyit cattle, shin relating to cattle, Kim perform work, shinny a workman. This is a nominalizer here, and one dealing with human beings. And the other variant is W. Kim to pay, shinu tax audit. The suffix W here of abstraction. Ik, ikim, shield. This prefix is a grammatical morpheme dealing with instruments. It's a classifier in the language for instruments. Shinny, the root to block. And then Kim, the crocodile tail, and then shin, crocodile. And so this is provable. And I don't have to go through our formulas again, because I don't have to do a math lesson for folks. Now we can go into other languages to help prove some things. So I go into Chiluba, and we can see here that this word, because Kemet also means a dorsal fin, and an aspect of the crocodile is pertaining to the god Sebek. And we can see in Chiluba, Bantu, in Congo, the cognate for it. So K has palatalized and become S, and M corresponds with L in the second consonant position here. So it's fin, flipper. Kim, service, duty, work. Sala, to do, and this is also a word for work. Kim, to pay. Sela, to pay dowry for a wife. Kemet, Egypt. Musulu, river, brook, stream. We'll get into that in a moment. But notice the classifier. This is the word for canal or river. So that's why we have this here. Kim, to complete. To put an end to. Sulu, to be finished, completed. Kusala, at the end. To the point of the limit of, the boundary of, the border, edge. Breach, shore, coast. And so ku is a locative prefix here. So sakim, to bring to an end, to find out, and then sudisha. And so I'm showing that the same grammatical affixes are in the same roots here. And so this is going to be very important. So I've already established with Chiluba, and I've already established in some other presentations that Egyptian K corresponds to Chiluba K in the first consonant position. And I'm showing here now that it also corresponds to S. But I want to show this more so to show the second consonant position, that the M corresponds to L in the second consonant position. And so this D is an allophone. So it's a rule in the language. When L is followed by I, L turns into D. That's what this formula says here. When L is followed by I, L turns into D. So with that said, Shikam, in this is what I call Egyptian, the Kim, the crocodile tail, is also Mukila in Chiluba for tail of an animal or reptile. These are cognates. So when anybody's trying to, I'm doing all of this to demonstrate what the methods are to prove what the root is. So of the glyphs. So we're dealing with the glyphs now, and showing that the crocodile tail, this is not charcoal. And so there's people still, this is one of Diop's arguments, that this is charcoal. And to Diop's credit, he got this from the Wartubush. And I can demonstrate why that is incorrect. But this is clear as day, is the crocodile tail. And so I get into this concept, taking Lee, for example, in this article, Egyptology and the Social Sciences, this book, Egyptology and the Social Sciences. We must, of course, be prepared to look for attribute clusters that are very different from those of our own culture imposes. To do this, we should not assume that one example of a representation with the term X above, it is adequate information for the translation of that term. We must collect as many examples as possible and try to identify the significant attributes those examples share of the category they are intended to represent. Only then will they be able to predict the boundaries of the category and to seek an English terminological label for it. So when we do this, when we look at the Kim glyph, we know that it is a dorsal fin, referring to Sebek, the crocodile deity. Kim, N, that's why they only focus on the end of the glyph. So that same glyph represents the concept N. There's no black N. And then, of course, with it being a crocodile, and then with the crocodile tail. And so we just, I showed that this is cognate within the language itself for crocodile. And so, and of course, we can go into Chiluba with the sound laws that we've already established for fin, flipper. And I've seen that there's a theme going on here. Musalala, mane. And so Kim, hair. And this is another variation of the word Kemet. And so I showed that in the first and second video. The sound correspondences here. Mane of a baboon. Shisala, branch with its leaves, twigs, and flower. And you'll notice that in the Egyptian language, the same root, the words for hair, there's many different words for hair. They also double as words for plants and trees, because there's an underlying theme here. These are attribute clusters. And Chiluba helps to clarify this because the root has to deal with to spread, to disperse, to spread out of the termite nest. This is where the L turns into N, spread, expand, and here's another variation, to disperse. So it's talking about something that points out, basically occurs from a center. So that's why it can refer to the tail, why it can refer to hair, and a fin and flipper, because this is the underlying theme for the word, which is why you don't dismiss linguistics when you're having conversations about ancient Egypt. And so I bring up again the semantics, the concept of a semantics, and why when you're doing comparisons, you have to understand how words are derived in the language. And so the word Kim for black comes from the word Kim for hair. That's all it is. It's the color of the hair. The generic symbol for hair, it has to deal with blackness. And so when we go into the Sumerian language, they have a different word for black, which comes from a different root. And I just want to show that the semantics, that the words for colors come from the words for things. And we can find this all across African languages. So We have, for example, Essie and Esh, a tree, a tamarisk almond tree. This word gig, a tree, a resin. Giggy, to be black. Mess, a tree. Mess, blackness, black spot, black wood. Mosh, gesh. And this is an ng sound. And so I note here that the sh sound and the s sound in Sumerian interchange. Also the ng sound and the as in Mary interchange, as we can see. So this word here is just a variant of this word here, gesh, for tree. And so the words for blackness in Sumerian comes from the word for tree, not for hair, like in Egyptian. So when you're doing comparative linguistics, you always have to first find the root for which derivative words form. So we're dealing with the folly of our good brother Netter. And so he tried to go to the Dogon languages. And so the Dogon languages, their word for hair is kuro. But their word for black and dark colored is jim, a jime, or gim in some other ethnicization, jimbu, become black, make black. And notice that in order to say a black person, you have to put the word for person in front of it, just like in Egyptian. So if I want to say black person, or black people, I have to say remech, Kim. And so it's the same here. Guzu jime, for example. Gusu june. Gusu jim, black skinned person. So these are not cognates in the language. They're not the same word. So when Netter goes and says that Jim here is a cognate for Kim in Egyptian, he is wrong because he doesn't know the comparative method. He doesn't know how to do it. And so these are just the other dialects. And so I've been dealing with Dogon for quite a while. I have all the Dogon dictionaries. And so I just pause this so for folks can pause and they can read this stuff on their own. So I already did I won't go through it again here, but I already proved that the word itself, Kim in Kemet, that the root has to deal with water. And there was a process that we did that. And I matched it all three in different languages. And so I used Sumerian and Chiluba, and they match in every form. So the cognate of Kemet in Sumerian is Kiduru. And we know that this is the roots to be soft, to be wet, to be irrigated, damp, fresh. And with the key prefix, a so-called feminine T here, it nominalizes it and gives it a secondary meaning. So now you have damp ground, irrigable land. This is the meaning of the word Kemet. And we're going to show some other variations of the word Kemet. Because remember that Egypt is over 3,000 years old. And because it's over 3,000 years old, and there's thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, as far as the Nile Valley is concerned, that you develop different languages and dialects. And so this is all going to come to a head real soon. So you was talking about, for example, Oenganda, but you don't understand where this concept comes from. Why didn't you post the sound correspondences? These are the sound correspondences that inform us that a cognate for the word Kemet in Bantu languages, besides Kim, and I can show that as well, is Chinkanda. This is in Chiluba. And so since all the Bantu languages are related, this variant form of the words are all the same. So it has to do with a piece of land, a field, part of a field being plowed in a day. This has to do with irrigatable land. So this is the slide that he was saying. So when you have the confirmation in the other languages, this is how you can demonstrate that the word itself means what it means in the language. because we've done the proper method. We didn't assume anything. We let the evidence speak for itself. And so in the Herero language, Oinganda, village, and also properly a new pasturage with abundance of grass and water. This is just one variation. So this is what I show here. I'll let this pause. Again, I'm gonna rush over the stuff that already been covered. And so these are, and I base this on sound laws. So these are different variations of the word Kim in the actual ancient Egyptian language. And they all share the same classifiers. And so if you don't know linguistics, you don't know how to prove anything dealing with linguistics. This is semantics. It's a linguistic field. It's a linguistic endeavor. If you don't know linguistics, you don't toss your hat in the ring. You are out of your league when it comes to this subject. And so I already demonstrated this is a riparian zone. This is what a Kemet deals with. A land with a large amount of water and a river running through it that floods. A riparian zone or riparian area is the interface between land and a river or a stream. A riparian is also the proper nomenclature for one of the 15 terrestrial biomes of the earth. Plant habitats and communities along the river margins and banks are called riparian vegetation, characterized by the hydrophilic plants. Riparian land refers to terrain that is adjacent to rivers and streams and is subject to periodic and occasional flooding. Everyone who knows anything about Egypt knows the importance of the Nile flood to the survival of the people. We're talking about the floodplains here. And keep this flood in mind, because we're going to deal with something real quick. So remember that I said that there's multiple variations of the word Kemet in the actual language or in the actual script, the Sesh Netcher script. And so I argue here that the word Ta-Mary is a dialectical, actually it comes from another language because there's multiple languages being spoken in Kemet. This is the other language variation of the word Kim. How can we prove it? Again, demonstration beats conversation. So we have this word Miri, to love, to wish. And in Chiluba, we have comma. And so what I'm arguing here is that the M corresponds with M, as we demonstrated before in other lectures, and in the main one dealing with Net or Neb, and that this R corresponds with K. We can do this in Egyptian itself. I just want to prove something. So everywhere you see Mer, the syllabic inverse in Chiluba is KM in terms of the consonant sequence. So to love, to wish, comma, to love, to desire, to wish, to think. Meru, desert, this suffix of place, comma, dry up, evaporate. This is the verb. This nominalizes the verb. Mer, weaving. Kuma, spinning, making thread, making fabrics, weave. Merit, divine songstress personified. Ngimba, singer, chanter, professional singer. Merit, a black cow. Ngomba, cow, beef, livestock. This, it may be a black cow, it may not, but the cognates have no color reference here. It's just a cow or bull or whatever. Meru or Mirawa, cedar. And you see other variations of this word. Miri, pole, partisan supporter. Mukamba, and also variant mutamba, beam or timber. So we have established the sound correspondences. This is not up for debate. So R corresponds with G and K in this position. It also corresponds with J or Y in Chiluba. So Mer, lake, canal, Jijiba, pond, lake, fish. And the same way that M and B correspond or interchange in Egyptian, it does the same thing in Chiluba. And remember what I said earlier about the B's or M's turning to W in between two vowels. So in this case, it's two back vowels. So merit, a boat, a barge, is mazua, boat, ship, ocean liner, in Chiluba. Mer, tomb, pyramid, jijamu, tomb. Meriti, two urea snakes. Jinga, coil, wind up, surround. And I show how the word for snakes has to deal with the word for coil. Mer, love, wish, desire. Jinga, desire, wish, to be necessary. So you have different dialectical variations of these words. And so I'm just showing you the sound correspondences. We're setting up something here. We've already established that that the R corresponds to K in initial position in Chiluba. But I just wanted to, we already gave one example of the and B. And so we always have to have three or more to show a pattern. So these two show this pattern. So Mer, bundle of clothing, Jikuba, bundle, package. Well, I don't have package here twice. In bundle. I don't know why I have that here twice. Anyway, Jibuki, bundle, parcel, bunch, package, baggage. So you see that even in Chiluba, the syllables interchange or inverse. So Mer, love again. Kuba, protect, take care of, make sure, monitor, observe. And I go into how all of that in the text. So there's some text under here, but I just want to give you these correspondences for now. So when we have, for example, Tom Mary, we've already established that the M corresponds with the Mer corresponds with K. Excuse me, the Mer corresponds with Kim, the sequence in Chiluba. And it does so also in Egyptian. But I just wanted to point out, this is from the Waterbush here. And this is for the word Tameri. And notice this classifier here. This is the word ter for time and season. Why would this classifier be here for Mer, which is, has to deal with the canal, not the beloved land? That's another forced definition. But when we actually go and do the work, we understand this has to deal with water, which is why you have this classifier here for time and season, because they took time, they told time by the stars, the position of the sun, and the flooding of the Nile. And so you can see, I should have put a circle around here, the different variations of the word Tameri. And also the alternative classifiers at the end here. So this is a pool of water. And as I'm going to show in a different lecture, the 049 glyph has to deal with water. So when Brother Reggie showed that old kingdom text of the Kemet, it was terminated by 049, the water glyph, the irrigated land glyph. And so I give Brother Reggie props for finding that. It still doesn't prove your point, but I do give you that. So that was a good one. So now, so this is in the Waterbush. This is directly a scan from the Waterbush dictionary. It was handwritten by Ehrman and Graphall. And so we know that Tameri has to deal with water by the classifiers and by this other these classifiers here and this other classifier here dealing with season and floods. And so in Chiluba, we also have other correspondences. And so, for example, Mer, to die, is longa, to die. So the R corresponds with L and the M corresponds with ng. And so we represent that with the IPA symbol here, ng. Mer, to bind, to attach, jilunga, from lunga, bind, connect, fold, a thing unto itself, make ends meet. Gifts, offerings. This is an R sound, and this is the M that became W as a result of existing in between two vowels. And so gifts, offering, jilunga, gift, to pay for work performed on a charm made. So this is key here. Mer, pasture, garden. Mer, canal. And so in Proto-Bantu, we have longa, low-lying wet ground. In West Savannah, it has evolved in the same way that it has evolved in Egyptian. For longa, river, as this pasture garden has also corresponds with canal and river in the Egyptian language. And so we're showing how the comparative method reaffirms certain things in Egyptian. And so we've already established, by the sound correspondences. So this, when we have Ta Mary here, this is the word Kemet. These are cognates, these are different language variations of the same words. So you have Meret, the black cow. Then you have Kemet, black bovines. You have Myrrh, bull. Then you have Kemet here, black, the serapeum. But this is the suffix. This is the word Kim for bull. But notice that this isn't a black bull. It's just bull. And so this is what I mean by, and we can show that a lot of Egyptologists kind of force meanings. And so if we want to prove the meanings of certain words, we can just go into their dialectical variations. So when people say you're quoting me, but you didn't quote my full argument when it had to deal with Kim word. And so I, like a number of other African scholars who write in French, are in agreement that Kim word has nothing to do with black. It is a title. And so I showed you the other dialectical variation, Gim word. And that's what you quoted me, but you didn't show what the meaning was. And so we had Kim word, a great black one, Osiris, but the dialectical variant is just Merwer, Menevis bull. So when we say Kim word, the region of the Bitter Lakes, they often define this as the Great Black Lake. What logic is that? Because the dialectical variation dealing with another lake is Lake Mororis, Merwer. Because Kim has to deal with water in this instance. And so we have Kimi, a snake, a black desert cobra, and you have Merwer, a great black, which is a snake. But there's no Mer, black, in the Egyptian language. If it is black, it is a coincidence. Because the word Mer does not mean black in Egyptian. And so when you find the cognate for it within the language, it doesn't, you don't interpret this. No one says Ta Mary, the black Mary, or the black, this would literally be the black land. And nobody argues for the black people when you talk about Ta Mary. Why? Because there's no indication, there's nothing here that would indicate that this, means black people. And it's the same thing with the word Kemet. And so this is why we don't skip over linguistics. This is the word Mary, beloved. And its dialectical variation, abi, to desire, to wish. B's and M's interchange in Egyptian, and so does this nasalized volar trill and this R sound here. These are from two different languages. There was multiple languages spoken in Egypt. And so you have code switching in the actual script. And so you notice a common theme when they talk about beloved. Why is the man pointing to his mouth? Because love has to do with two things. It has to do with what you tell folks, but it more so has to deal with feeding. I have a whole book. The first printing was in, the ebook version was in 2013. And then I released a hardcover, well, not hardcover, the print version in 2015 called Where is the Love? How Language Can Reorient Us Back to Love's Purpose. I talk about this word here and how the word for love has to deal with feeding and how the word ma'at has to deal with feeding. That's another conversation for another time. But people aren't being rigorous. They're being lazy. They just assume things and don't have ways to prove it. So there's another cognate for the word Kemet, or the word Kim and Kemet. And this is going to be kind of devastating here. So here I have 3 columns. So I have Egyptian, one dialect here, and Egyptian, another dialect here, and of course Chiluba to reinforce some things. So we've already went through certain of these sound correspondences, with the exception of this nya right here. But this is just another variation of G. It's a palatalized j or nya. So nya. So this is how we write it in IPA. But so when we transliterate these glyphs, this is lowercase a, lowercase m as the root for all these in this column. And this is km, the sequence here, with the exception of this last one. We already proved that K and G interchange in Egyptian. So this is just a dialectical variation of a KM root that just didn't come into the language. So we have Hamu. This is a ha sound. It's kind of a guttural H. Well, all H's are kind of guttural, but this is a real hard guttural H. So you say ham, hamwa, a very juicy fruit. Hamir, a plant, a very juicy fruit. Kimu, seeds or fruit of the kim plant. Hamu, a food. Kimu, food. Hamir, beer jug. Kemet, a jar. Ham, a container for bread. Inyungu, pot jug. Chingulu, great pot jar. Hamir, turn sour, spoil, go bad. Sakim kim, destruction. Gim, crush, smash, to tear. This doesn't seem like they relate until we go into Chiluba. Inyanga, damage, destroy, deteriorate, spoil, defile, mess up, abuse, maltreat. So the concept of spoiling is just a form of destruction and deterioration. So this is why these are cognates. And so we have the M turning into W in this variation, to rot, to spoil. Why? Because of the process of lenition. 2 vowels. Inyunga, spoiling. Inyunguku, Inyunguka, I should say. Inyunguka, spoiling. Hama, virgin. Yima, jima, virgin. Ham, something that makes noise. Mukuma, report, noise, sound of a gun. Hamhaha, kernel of grain. It's a partial reduplication. Kemet, grain or a plant. Chitungu, and I go into the text where I show that these also, because usually it's from K, parallelizes to T, and then from T to R or S. So that's the flow, how we get the mer, correspondences for Kim. So hamha, a kind of beer, no correspondence here, but G, this J comes from G, and this is just a different variation. So in Jim, a kind of beer, but I won't count this in our presentation. So musela, beer, malt, to smear here, kanga, close, seal, jiba, and this also means to close as well. And ham, to rub, gim, finger, to caress, kula. So we see here that ham, this root, corresponds repeatedly to km. Why is this important? Oh, before we go there, I just want to show again that the M corresponds to W. And so these are dialectical variations of the same word, which you can see clear as day here. So, and because this is going to be important, that this W for this word is just an allophone, a variant, a phoneme of this word here. So when we have the word hamahet, mud, muddy ground, this is cognate with the word kim. We already established in the other languages. So here in Chiluba, chikama, damp ground. Sumerian, kiduru, damp ground, irrigable land. All based on the science and the sound laws. And this corresponds here. So notice, and anybody who does who deals with the hieroglyphs what does the single stroke behind a glyph mean in the language? Can you intervene real quick, Brother Wudjau? What does the single stroke behind a glyph mean? If you're still listening. Oh, well, I'll just keep on going. What this means, he probably went to get something to drink or you're in the bathroom. So what this means is that you take this glyph literally. So remember that this glyph here, N23, is a irrigated land glyph. This is wet land. So it says mud or muddy ground. That's the English translation. And so the cognates of it, because these are cognate with Kemet, and we already showed how these are cognate with Kemet. But notice, when you actually go into the Wörterbuch, it has this word here, or this phrase here, art Ackerboden, kind of arable soil. That's what this is, why you have irrigated land as a classifier for this word here. This is another dialectical variation of the word Kemet. And so the proper way to interpret this is the alluvial soil, which is a fine-grained fertile soil deposited by water flowing over floodplains or in river beds. That's what this word here is. So this word is cognate with Kemet. It's a partial reduplication. So this is the shortened version. Here's the full version. It's reduplicated twice. So when I say that Kim has to deal with water and moisture, we already proved it in Chiluba. We already proved it in Sumerian. We could prove it again in Egyptian by this word here, moisten. Has to do with wetness. And the cognate shishima, humidity, freshness, coldness. And so this is why Brother Reggie totally avoided all the linguistic arguments, because he doesn't know about linguistics and he can't prove anything linguistically. So when our good brother Netcher, I appreciate the everyone want to help him out. Brother Reggie sending him some information. So he gives you deference right here. When you're talking about Remech Kim, black person, notice you have to put this after the word for person. You have to use the word Kim as black to describe the person. You couldn't just say Kim in Egyptian and it means black person. And so, our good brother Dr. Cambone sends him some more information from the Ebers Papyrus. What do we have here? Hamahat, Kemet. And so this T in Kemet is not like Kemet in the nation of Toponym. That's because this is a feminine and the adjective has to agree with the noun in terms of the gender of the noun. So this T comes from this T. So Hamahat, Kemet. So black mud or black soil. So in order for them to talk about black soil, they have to use the word. This is cognate with Kemet. This is the other word Kim in Kemet. So they have to use another word to describe the color of it, because this Kim is not cognate with this word here. And so this is why we strive not to be sloppy in our analysis. And so our good brother Netcher, again, he doesn't know linguistics. He doesn't know these things. So he gets a few pointers from our good brother Reggie and Dr. Cambone, and he can't defend himself. And so this word here is the word Kemet. Let's continue. So Notice that when it comes to, so we already read one version of this, and remember we demonstrated that this is an abstract, not a plural classifier here, that Brother Reggie doesn't go into the text that actually has the one that they're arguing has the word Kemet, meaning black people. And so here's another variant of this word Kemet with the people classifiers and the abstract classifier. But let's read the sentence. He came. This is the word for come, past tense, him. He came. He caused the nation of Kemet to live. This is not Kemetiu. To live. He dispelled its afflictions. You see that S again? Remember that S we were introduced to before? This is a singular. This is not plural. This is not a collective, as people try to argue, like a collective plural. This is a singular concept. And the grammar, for all you grammar rule people, is that the grammar reinforces that this is a singular. And so the S pronominal suffix on the word shinu is a third person feminine singular pronoun. It anaphorically refers back to its antecedent. What does this refer to? This, which is the word Kemet, and agrees with its gender and number, which is feminine singular. The word Kemet in this text is not feminine plural and would not be rendered Kemet Wut or the made up Kim 2. This is some madness that Ned or Ned made up. And so this is from the hymn to Sinwer Set, plate 3, line 5. So in this variation, we kind of skip over things when we're talking about the grammar. So here's a translation. This has come from Goldman's text. So then I and the entire force descended to the black land without there being any retreating of any follower or the death of a great person or a little person. I reaching the black land safely because of my skill in ascending to this place. What place? You see this word here, set? This is the word for place. So this is ascending to place. And so we put in parentheses, this place. What place are they talking about? Kemet as a place. They're not describing people. This is a location. It's a toponym. And so toponyms describe places. And in the actual Egyptian text, it's telling you it's a place. In plain Egyptian, set, place. Ascend this place right here, this word set. There's a reason why Reggie didn't read all of this. He tried to skip over and talk about something he's not qualified to talk about. And so, I forgot to put the source here, but this is from the Tale of Senuhe. I think it's line 54 or something like that, 34 or 54. So we have the word Remech Kemet. Ntu, M, the people of Kemet who are there. The people of Kemet who are, this is those who are one who, but when you have the Nisbe and the plural here, it's those who. This is the grapheme for Tiu. And then M, I am right here, or JM or YM if you're using a German transliteration system, is a word for there. What is there? What is there referring to? This place. You can only reference Kemet as a place. Never is it describing any people. And so this is why we go into the text. And so we get, this is why Reggie wasted 2.5 hours talking about who he shaked hands with. I shake Jordan's hands one time. Does that mean I could dunk from the 3-point line because I knew it was associated with somebody? No. We only deal with primaries here. And so let's use the logic. Let's go to logic real quick. So this is from the dictionary for the coffin text. And we have a locative here, the place name. And notice the glyph, because this is the word for fish. This is haret, or haret. It's the word for fish. And so this is a quote unquote fish known. If we use Diop's logic and we place this series of graphemes after the name here, the word for fish, would you translate this word to as the fish qualifying the noun? So that means these are fish people, that they look like fish. Is that what you're arguing? If we substitute this, the 049 glyph, with this, does this mean that these are fish people? No. And so this is where that validity, consistency, and all that comes in. So once you take it outside of Diop's argument for Kemet, and you try to apply that same logic somewhere else in the language using the same rules, it doesn't fly. And so this is why we, as scientists, we investigate everything. We're not going against Diop, just an argument of his and every other Egyptologist. And y'all making this about Diop. This is about Egyptology, period. And so it was just a lot of mischaracterization going on as far as our good brother, saying is concerned. Hold on, let me. I'm not even going to go into these German texts. But notice, for example, when we were talking about, he's showing all these Kemet and all these wares. The Egyptians used red and black for the same people. So both of these statues here are King Tut. In one statue, he's the Kim black. In the other statue, he's Deshret red. So which one is his actual skin color? He can't be both. There's something else going on here. He showed Amenemhotep. This is another depiction of him. Same color like you see with King Tut. Two different colors. We show the same thing with Taharka. Taharka here in a Deshret red color, and then him is a pitch black, in terms of the black off stone. What's going on here? Something else is going on. And so they're not even thorough to even try to explain this in their presentations. And so I can go into Benin. This is from King Glele from the 1800s. This is him in the center. And these are his other people. They're using red and black also symbolically. These are not different people. So are the Benin people, are they red people? I don't know if y'all been to Benin. What does this mean here? Same thing here. All from Benin. This has to do with the kingdom of Benin and their representations. This is King Glele as a lion trampling his enemies. And so these are all people. These just other African people. but the language is symbolic. I mean, the colors are symbolic. Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to exit the full screen. Hold on, and go to this other. Which one should I go to? See, hold on. See, I already showed that one in the presentation. And so, like, this here is from, well, first let me go here. So when he's talking about the feminine T, there's ways that we can argue, there's ways that we can prove that not all T's are feminine, and that even the Egyptians got confused with the feminine T. And so here's the collagen. And so you have these verbs here, and these are cognates in the language. So in Egyptian, sir, sheep, Syrian, a particular kind of sheep. In collagen, kishur, sheep, kishur yet, a sheep. Hawu, large, hawit, largeness. Wu, large. Uintu or indu, largeness. We see the same thing. And so these suffixes of abstract bring secondary meanings to adjectives and verbs. And that really didn't have much to go after that.
All right, so we're live now. So we got people in the chat. So spread this link if everyone who can hear me. Hopefully you all should be able to hear me and see the screen and everything like that. Let me go ahead to the screen. We deeply apologize for the delay. Unforeseen issue with Netcher. But so we're gonna give a little bit of time for people to spread this. So listen, if you all can hear me right now, press 1, and that'll be a good sign. And also spread this link to those who were watching before. We had technical issue that just stopped the stream, but now we're back up and running. And so we are going to continue to proceed. Asar was I think he pretty much knows where he left off, or where you all left off at, and we're going to pick up from there. And we don't have too much long to go. So we know it's Saturday night, so, sleepers for the week. We appreciate everybody hanging out. Y'all could be doing something different or whatever the case is, but, hopefully you'll be able to get this knowledge. And hopefully you all are paying attention, because I'm seeing a lot of people comment and have these, chit-chat conversations in the chat, but there's information being taught, and this information, linguistics is I keep saying this, is one of the most slept on disciplines in science, one of the most slept on scientific disciplines. And it's complex. It's not hard, but it's complex, and you have to understand key elements within it. And so I'm seeing people having conversations that are not, paying attention, and you're missing out. So go back and watch these videos. Brother Reggie's presentation, what Asar is going through, and if time permits, then something that I'm gonna give. All right, so just kind of stalling right now, trying to buy some time. Hopefully everyone will pass the link around, and so I know this is gonna be archived. So one thing, whatever we say is gonna be on here, and I guess it's gonna be a 3-part video. But anyway, so I guess we can pretty much kind of pick up on it, but I hope that people will be paying attention. I saw the brother Ned typing. The brother wasn't paying attention, because if he was paying attention, half the stuff he was typing he wouldn't have to type. And so and that goes for some other people that was in the chat. So we want people to be attentive. Just listen. We got to practice some discipline. Just listen for a minute. We patiently listen to Brother Reggie. Let him do his thing completely uninterrupted. And I appreciate everything that Reggie said. and the whole nine. You know, this is kind of rare when we can get presentations done without all the immaturity that we see in the communities. So this is a breath of fresh air. So let's keep this up. And so again, we got some people. All right, so Asar, whenever you ready, I was trying to stall.
Yeah. Again, I don't have much to go. Like, I was basically done.
Okay, because you're not sharing your screen anymore though.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. So let me know when you're ready. I was just trying to kind of buy some time.
Okay. So when I looked at the footage of the last stream, so it ended at least with me doing the feminine, the addressing the feminine T. So from there, I jumped to this aspect. So this is actually from my book. And that I made, parts of it from the slide. So I show that, you have Kim to tear out, Khanda to separate, to show the correspondence between Egyptian K and Chiluba K and Egyptian M and Chiluba Ind, which is just a nasalized variation of the L. So we already proved that L corresponds to M. And so when that L is nasalized, it too turns the L into D. And so that's all this is. It's a nasalized lateral approximant, yeah, and then becomes D. And so that's why they correspond. And so the cognate for Egypt is Shiankanda, a piece of land, a field, a part of the field being plowed in the day. And so if people don't understand it, there's Kemets outside of Kemet. And even in the Egyptian records, you find what Kemet, Wakanda, basically, in Upper Nubia, with Kemet, a Sudani country, whence came Mother of Emerald. So this is Budge, and here's another citation for this place name here. So this is Buganda, Bukam. That's what this is. And so what I was stating is that the names of Kemet exist outside of Kemet. And if we are to really just put the icing on the top of this, we would have to show a tradition in Africa of place names being called cognates for Kemet. And so we went through all the sound correspondences between KM, KND, and KNG for like Congo. So what I was showing is that in all these are, the first column is the place name, the second column is the country, the third column is the location within the country, and then the fourth column is what we call the feature class. So it lets you know what it is, a populated place. In other words, this would be the classifier. It lets you know that it's a populated place. And so Bukama, Democratic Republic of Congo, there's a populated place called that, and then there's a third order administrative division called that. Bukama in another area, a populated place. Bukama, Upper Lomani, that's French. And so triangulation station is it letting you know these spots. Bukama, Democratic Republic of Congo. Then you can go to Nigeria, Kemet. In other words, ancient Kemet isn't the only Kemet. You still have a Kemet in Nigeria. Populated place. Kami, Ivory Coast. Kami, Democratic Republic of Congo. Niger, Ivory Coast. And just like I showed, see what Brother Reggie tried to do is to downplay by trying to defer and deflect the fact that some of the sources for those place names within Kemet were derived from quote unquote white sources. But then he turns around and then quotes a white source. For what reasons, we don't know. But he didn't give the context for why I was citing those. Those are places that are called Kemet in their variations within Kemet itself. So you have the nation Kemet, and then you have smaller Kemets within Kemet. And they're going to refer to either lakes or they're going to refer to population centers. And so just like that, you have these multiple Kemets in a single place. You find multiple Kemets in these other locations. So and remember, like the Ivory Coast, Democratic Republic of Congo, these are all more modern borders as a result of the 1884-1885 Berlin Conference. And so, we don't necessarily have to pay attention to these borders. But these are the indigenous names for these places. And so you have Kami in the Ivory Coast, Kami in Niger, Kami Ngindi in Ivory Coast. So this lets you know that Ngindi is a type of Kami. Kami Koru in Mali, it's a type of Kami. That means it's a type of place. Republic of Congo, Kamia, Democratic Republic of Congo in Lomami, Kami, Rwanda. I'm skipping all across Africa here. East, West, South Africa. Ukam in Nigeria. Ikot Akpan Ukam, Nigeria. Ukot Obong Ukam, Nigeria. Otkami in Chad. Bukanda. Remember, because this is a dialectical variation of the word Kam or Kemet. Bukanda, South Africa, is a farm. Bukanda, third order administrative division. Bukanda, Liberia, populated place. Bukanda has nothing to do with white people. It has nothing to do with Wakanda and Marvel. These are all indigenous African names. They got Wakanda from these names. And so Winakanda, Democratic Republic of Congo. Yoli Kanda, Republic of Congo. Kanda Kanda, double Kanda, Democratic Republic. So just like how we had Hamhamit in Egyptian, Kanda Kanda, cognates. So we see that repeat. So we see that same practice in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In Niger, Democratic Republic of Congo again. Nigeria, Malawi, Niger, Kanda Kanda. Manima Kanda, Mali. Sola Kanda, Mali. Garin Kanda, Niger. Yindi Kanda, Mali. Anaconda, Mali. Kanda, Cameroon. Kamba Kanda, Democratic Republic of Congo. Ikanda. Ikanda in Uganda. Okanda Penda, Republic of Congo. And so just like how we would find it in Egyptian, we should also find these same words for water spots. And so Bukama, stream. Ukami, stream. Kami Kamdam, Zimbabwe, reservoirs. Bukanda, Zambia, stream. Ikanda, stream. Kanda, Democratic Republic of Congo, stream. Kanda, Kanda, Kanda again, Kasai, stream. Kanda, Democratic Republic of Congo, stream. Kanda, Cameroon, Ivory Coast. From West, Central, East to South Africa. Same names. Same for hills and peaks and forests and marshes. Kanda, 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 Bukanda, Kami, Kaimboshi, Zambia, Kami, Kuru, Mali, Pic de Kami, Ivory Coast. The K and G's correspond as we've already demonstrated. So Kanda is also going to be pronounced Ganda, 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 Niger, population centers, populated places, all these centers, all Ganda, Ganda, from Angola, Ivory Coast, South Sudan, Mozambique, Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, to Ethiopia, Cameroon, Ganda Mongo, Ganda Gulu, Ganda Lele, Ganda Abahi in Ethiopia, Ganda Angola, Inganda, Oinganda, Namibia. That's the Herero folks. So this is where you see this here, village. Ganda, South Africa, East Cape, a populated place. So just in the same fashion, you'll find waters spots named Ganda. From Angola, Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Niger, Angola. All Ganda. Congo, same thing. This is another cognate with the word Kemet, and I demonstrate that in the text. Populated place from Ghana, Republic of Congo, Mali, Tanzania, Congolo, Congo, Tanzania, populated place, Congo, Angola area, Congo, Sierra Leone. You got Congo and Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Namibia, Gabon, Sudan again. Why is all this in the Sudan and all this West Africa? Remember that the Egyptians came from the south, right? So they would name the stuff the same way that you would do in the south, right? This is the south. Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, Mali. Well, that's West Coast. This is the South. This is down the Great Lakes area. All these words for the same thing. So I show that they can mean camp, village, you know, saying other property, but it tells you what the true definition is. Besides village, a properly a new pasturage with an abundance of grass and water. That's why they're all population centers and why they also double as words for rivers and streams and lakes. That's why Kimwer is not the Great Black. It's a Great Lake. It's all the Kimwers and the Mer words in Egypt are big ass lakes, and they're not black in color. I've been there. I got photos. They're not talking about blackness and color. And so where we stopped the last time, and this is where I'll end, is that in the UNESCO conference, they noted Professor Gordon Jacquiet, who made this observation. And so you can read this in The Peopling of Ancient Egypt and the Deciphering of the Marathi Script, 1978. So let me kind of scroll out just a little bit so y'all can see it a little bit more. Maybe I did it too. Do 280. Is that good? Yeah, that should be. All right. So Professor Gordon stated that the study of Egyptian toponymy, because remember, Kemet is a toponym. It doesn't describe people, could perhaps be brought to bear in support of the assertion that no massive immigrations or invasions of foreign populations had arrived in Egypt, at least since Neolithic times. It is a well-known phenomenon that topographical names were extremely long-lived, and that each successive language group inhabiting the same area would leave its mark on that area in the form of place names, more or less numerous, depending on the size of the population and the length of time of its predominance in that area. Any important permanent addition to Egyptian population from the exterior would certainly have left this mark on the toponymy of the country. In other words, if the ancient Egyptians would have came from somewhere else outside of Africa, that it would reflect names, the toponyms would reflect names in the languages external to Egypt and Africa in general. This was not the case. The toponymy of Egypt was very homogeneous, displaying names whose etymology could almost without exception be explained by the Egyptian language itself. And so, and we did those proofs already. It was only at the Ptolemaic period and still later after the Arab conquest that names of respectively Greek and Arabic origin were added to the basic fund of Egyptian names. It was only in the peripheral regions, Nubia, the Western Oasis and Eastern Delta regions, in immediate contact with the neighboring people speaking other languages, where names whose etymology could be traced to those foreign languages were to be found. So in other words, the Egyptian toponymy are names that are inherited from its pre-dialectical parent. All of these names are indigenous to Egypt. You don't have to go outside of Egypt to get to the meanings of these names. And so that's what that internal work that I did helped to demonstrate. We go to the external to do confirmations, but there's a reason why I went through all of those different names, because these are the cognates of Kemet across Africa, all these population centers. And I didn't just give a few examples. I exhausted these examples. And so the same naming procedures that you find in the rest of Africa, you find in Egypt, which we would expect since Egypt is related to all these other languages for which we compare to. So the Egyptians are not going to just invent some new way to name themselves in the country. They're just following the blueprint from their cousins everywhere else on the continent. And so this is why you can't argue that this is going against Diop, because Diop's method is to check place names ethnic names in words to show migrations. And so in that same book, The Peopling of Ancient Egypt and what's the name? Yeah, The Peopling of Ancient Egypt and the Deciphering of the Meroitic Script, there's an article in there by Diop showing this method. So I actually, through my work, reinforce Diop's bigger claim that the ancient Egyptians were Black African people who came from the interior of Africa. This helps to prove it, because you can't find these names in Arabia, in Europe. These are all African indigenous names for their land and river spaces and streams. They're all consistent. They're internally consistent. They're valid. All of this follows the scientific method. And so, you know, I appreciate our good brother, but he's stepping into an arena that he has no training in. So he doesn't know how to answer. He didn't even know what the question was. And so he tried to dismiss linguistics when that is the very field that we're having the conversation in. And so neither Diop, neither Mfudishi, neither Obinga, neither Raketi Amin, as great as they are, they have not studied and done this work. This is why Raketi Amin sends you Diop's work, because she hasn't published and researched this. None of these people have. And that's why they're fishing, just looking for straws, making all kinds of weird arguments instead of dealing with the argument itself. So the question is, how do you define how do you prove that the word Kemet, that the meaning of the word Kemet? That's the fundamental question here. Regardless of what you think it means, that's your hypothesis that it means Black. You don't go looking for Black. That's why we have a scientific process, so you can eliminate bias, because that's a bias. If I already think that the word Kemet means Black, of course, if I find some lookalikes in some other languages that mean Black, I'm going to declare victory. That's not how science works. And that's why Nader Neb is not a scientist. He's not a linguist. He's just starting his journey. While brother Reggie has a lot of years in conversation with some of our great elders, he has not researched this question. He has not studied linguistics. He has not presented this in front of no conference amongst scholars and had argued these points. This is out of his field. And so we got to stop acting as if this is just a simple question that you can just over the weekend just Google search some things and then you've got an answer. That's not how this works. And I still haven't given y'all everything. Look how many pages this is. How many pages is this? This is 56 pages so far in my PDF of analysis. And I haven't even gotten to some of the other details, because it's not a fly-by night. It's not a fly-by weekend. I didn't look at this research question, wasn't aimed to discredit. I just had a genuine research question. What is the etymology of the word Kemet? And so there's a way that you do etymology, and you can't do etymology without the other languages, which is why, again, our good brother Reggie circumvented that, and he couldn't even deal with I've already proven without a shadow of a doubt what the meaning of Kemet is, using the other three languages and the grammar rules. But because he doesn't have a background in it, he can't recognize it. He doesn't know what he's looking at. It's like somebody like who doesn't know how to fix a car, the car stop and they just open the trunk and start looking around, hoping that they'll discover something that will help them instead of being familiar with how to fix cars. And so while I appreciate our good brother, he's wrong, and he's way wrong, and he's way off, and he's mischaracterizing, arguments, and don't know what the real argument is. And so I now turn it over to our good brother Wudjau, who would deal with those other issues, which brother Reggie, for all his years, I don't know how you get this wrong, for studying this long, especially for under the greats. So brother Wudjau, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, so it's been a long night, so I'm going to try to keep this as brief as I can, at the same time without diminishing the lesson that people should have and benefit from this. All right, so for those who can hear me, I really appreciate you hanging out and hanging strong with us through the three videos now and all of that good stuff. So I appreciate that. And again, this is your brother Wudjau, and all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get straight to the point. And I hope the brother Reggie will take this information, and also the brother Netcher, he really needs to pay attention because he doesn't know the grammar. And so I'm gonna give a little lesson about the grammar, because a lot of emphasis was put on rules, quoting rules from Europeans, but while at the same time, one side of the neck was quoting rules from Europeans, and the other side of the neck was dissing them, which I don't understand. This is why I don't get involved with the Crayola color wars and all of that stuff. As a scientist, I follow evidence, and demonstration beats conversation each and every time. All right. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to take back the credit that was given to our good brother Reggie. If you all can see my screen, this is one of Reggie's slides. If you all recall, when the brother Reggie was presenting, this is the point where Reggie slowed down, and he gave a good performance, where he slowed down and he acted like how a boring, in his words, I'm paraphrasing though, how white people deliver information dry and boring. And so he read all of this very, very slow, et cetera, et cetera. Then he showed us this. And so Reggie's of the assumption, because he hasn't researched this question, and I told the brother Reggie over the phone that, I open-minded, I'll listen to what he has to say, and I hope that he brings something to the table that I don't already know. And I will say this for the record: absolutely nothing that Reggie said tonight or that he showed are things that are new to me at all. Okay? Including this here. This slide here that he showed was set up to be like a bomb, and it was really a dud. If y'all can see my cursor here, this is from the pyramid text. Okay, this is actually from the pyramid text of Neith, this particular one. And so in this particular line that he was pointing out, the point that he was making to show this was to take a stab at Ogden Goulet's work when he did a survey of the toponym, or the place name, that the Remich called their land Kemet. And so in his text, which Reggie also quoted, which is from what Asar had quoted, was that the first use of the toponym Kemet as a name for the entire country, the kingdom, or the polity, or the state, however you want to word it, was during the 11th dynasty. So brother Reggie was saying that, it's okay to quote white scholars, but you got to check behind them. So he shows this to show that Goulet was wrong. But in fact, the brother Reggie is wrong. This particular word here is Kemetiu. It's not the word Kemet. This bird here is the G4 buzzard bird for the TU. This particular word simply means those of Kemet. This particular Kemet is not identifying the entire country. This particular Kemet, if you actually read the pyramid text and study the pyramid text within the original language, you will know that this particular place is not the entire country. It's just one of the smaller places within Tawi, the two lands that Asar spoke about earlier. There were a lot of little Kemets within the country Kemet prior to the country being called Kemet. So Ogden Goulet was 100% correct when he said that the country as a whole, the nation as a whole, the polity as a whole, the kingdom as a whole was not called such until the 11th dynasty. Okay? So this particular, and if you read this here, this says aha ek, which means you stand. Kenti, before or in front of. Shenut, this is a word for chapels. You will stand in front of chapels like the deity Men. Next line, it says, you will also stand in front of those of Kemet. Talking about that small location, not the entire country. Like the deity Apis, the bull. Or Hap, as it has here. Okay? That's what it says. And so I encourage people to actually read text for context and content, and not just do searches to argue and win a debate. That is the wrong way and method or encouragement of our younger people coming up, trying to be researchers, moving from being enthusiasts and moving into real research. That is a bad way to bring people into the fold. So I encourage people to read content, context. All right. So that's number one. This is not new. Actually, I'm going to show you how it's not new. If you look in the TLA, which is the electronic version of the German Wörterbuch Egyptian Sprache, the most elaborate Egyptian dictionary that we have to date. If you look in there, you will find reference to this exact same word and the same pyramid text. Pyramid text of Pepi I, pyramid text what? 674. And if I go back here, you can see here, Sprache or Sprache 674. So it's in all of the books. So it's not something that, as Brother Reggie says, this plate is hidden from almost every translation of the pyramid text, but referred to, or Egyptologists hide. See, there's no conspiracy. We don't have to invent conspiracy theories, because when you actually read this stuff and you actually study this stuff, it's available. It's not hidden at all. Okay? So this is just an entry inside of it, and it shows you multiple entries where it has the lines, the pyramid of Neith. You see it's in the pyramid text of Neith as well. And so you see this is where this N is here for. Okay? Not Pepi. It's also in Pepi as well, but he has Pepi up here, but this particular example is from Neith. So you see here, Pepi the first, Neith, Pepi the second, same thing. It's saying the same thing. It actually tells you, you will stand before the inhabitants of Egypt, as they translate it, like Apis. All right? So that's number one. All right? Now, as far as the rule is concerned, what I would like to do is to really educate people on this idea that that Asar broke a rule or avoided a rule or whatever the case is. But before I do that, I have to say this, that I have to go back to this, that there's two hypotheses, okay? One is that Kemet means black land. Did you all know that Diop was against this hypothesis? But yet the brother Reggie, as well as the brother Netaneb, is arguing for this hypothesis. So in essence, these two brothers are good brothers. They are going against Shekanta Diop, but it's not blatantly done. So they're giving the impression that Asar, see, this is where you play on the emotions of people. They give the impressions that Asar is going against Diop to play the emotional card that we have attachments and tethered to Diop as a genius. But yet at the same time, they themselves are going against Diop, because Diop himself says Here, a quote out of Diop. He says, in fact, we know that the Egyptians called their country Kemet, which means black in their language. The interpretation according to which Kemet designates the black soil of Egypt rather than the black man, and by extension the black race of the country of blacks, stems from a gratuitous distortion by the minds aware of what an exact interpretation of this would imply. So our good brothers Reggie and Netcher are going against Sheikh Anta Diop, but at the same time would like the audience to believe that they're not, and only Asar is going against Sheikh Anta Diop, when Asar is actually doing what Diop tells us all to do, which is what I'm showing on the screen now. Again, to reiterate, he says, I'm just reading the red. It bothers me when someone takes me on my word without developing a means of verifying what I say. Isn't that what Asar did? He developed a mean to either prove or disprove what Diop said. He goes on, we must form a scientific spirit, which is what Asar did, a scientific demonstration using the scientific method of historical comparative linguistics, capable of seeing even the weaknesses of our own proofs. That's what Asar showed. Of seeing an unfinished side of our work. Again, that's what Asar showed. Unfinished work. And of committing ourselves to completing it. That's what Asar is doing, soon to publish this in a book. Therefore, we should have a work which can honestly stand criticism, because what we have done would have been placed on a scientific plane. That's exactly what our brother Asar Imhotep is doing. So the idea to paint the picture like Asar is going against Diop is a slick way to avoid the actual issue, which brings me back to the actual issue. If you all remember, I tried my best to shape the conversation. I said what the question was not about. So I'm going to reiterate it. Does black exist as an adjective in ancient Egyptian? That's not a question. That's not the question. We know it exists in ancient Egyptian. Can we find cognizance of the adjective black in related African language? That's not the question. We know we could do that. We've been doing that. People been doing that. I can show you a website called Egyptian Search that goes back to 1998, where people are doing that, including Asar Imhotep is on there. All right. 3, did the Egyptians use color terms to describe a person or a thing? That's not a question. We know they did that. Do classifiers have to be present for every attestation of a word? We know about that. None of these are the question, but actually what the brother Reggie did tonight was he actually addressed these 4 things that are not even an issue, which is why I said them before the brother Reggie started, so that it will shape the conversation to be on point with the question. So what was the question? The question is, what does the word Kemet mean? And by Kemet, we're talking about the name of the country, kingdom, polity, state. The toponym, Kemet. What does it mean? That's the question. All right. So, and none of that was covered. So, very quickly, what I want to do is reiterate, and I'm not going to go over it again. I've done a whole video on this, but I want to reiterate that toponyms never, ever refer to or describe people. Toponyms always refer to places. That's why it's called toponym. The word toponym comes from the Greek topos, meaning place, and onym, meaning name. Toponyms are place names. And we have to understand that. Toponyms are place names. There are different kinds of toponyms. There are toponyms or place names that refer to water. They're called hydronymic toponyms, as you see over here. So when I say the Atlantic Ocean, that is a hydronym, which is a type of toponym. If I say Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest or Appalachian Mountains, that is an oronymic toponym. Oronym being a mountain name, never referring to people. If I wanted to refer to people, that's called an ethnonym. And there's two types of ethnonyms. There are ethnonyms where people name themselves, which is called an endonymic ethnonym, self-named. And then there's an exonymic ethnonym, people who are named by foreigners. Okay? So people have to understand that. And quickly, eponym. Eponym is over here by itself because eponym has to be attached to either a toponym or an ethnonym. Eponym is simply something, a person or a place or a thing named after a person. So the example that we all are familiar with, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard or Malcolm X Boulevard. Those are streets. Those are places and streets that are named after a person. It doesn't refer to the person. It's named after the person. You don't tell somebody to turn left on Malcolm X Boulevard and they're expecting to see Malcolm X there. Malcolm X could talk. The street can't. Malcolm X Boulevard is referring to, pointing to a street, not the person. Okay? So I want everybody to get that in their head. This is something I already went over, so I'm just laying that out there. All right? So the word Kemet as the name of the place could never refer to people. It doesn't refer to people. Nobody addressed that. Netcher goes on and on about how Asar supposedly didn't address adjectives or adjective nouns, and things like that. But Netcher never addressed the toponym issue, which should be number one. Kemet is a place. Toponym. Brother Asar showed this slide. These are toponymic determinatives or classifiers. So these water ones would be hydronymic toponymic determinatives. These are place name determinatives here. Everyone should be familiar with this. So what has to happen is people have to downplay the use of determinatives. If you notice all of the arguments so far from both Netcher and our good brother Reggie, that there's always a downplaying of something. There's a downplaying of determinatives. There's a downplaying of what somebody wrote because of their skin color, not looking at the evidence. So we have to be careful of doing that. And I don't encourage people to do that. A scientist follows the evidence. Demonstration beats conversation. All right. So I want everybody to understand those things. Here are some examples of some Egyptian toponyms, places. This is the happy. Notice the three water ripples. This will be a hydronymic toponym. It's the name of a body of water, a river, the Nile River, we call it today. Mahet, which is a swampy area full of water, the Delta marshes. All these words here are place names. Look at the last one, Abu. So let's use, like Asar said, let's use the logic of a rule that Brother Reggie nor Netcher really understands, and I'm going to show you all in a second the rule that they keep talking around, but they don't really explain it. If we use the rule and put a T of the bread loaf, which is a T, here, and put two people, the seated man and woman, and the three strokes that people believe that's plural, then what I'm saying using their logic is that the people in this place look like elephants, just like Asar did with the fish. And that's not true. So the logic is flawed. Why? Because it's not true. These are place names. It's just that simple. All right. So I don't want to dwell on that because, like I said, we've done presentations on that. So what I want to do, I want to change over and give you all a lesson about this rule that they do not understand. So first, let me explain. Let me explain something. And I need to find it. Hot second here. So what I'm going to show you is something that we should all know, and why it's not, for those who study, why it's not a big deal. Now, there are people who are beginners and in this, and I encourage people to learn the language all the time. But when you're beginning, even in an initiatory setting, usually within an initiatory environment, you're taught that when you are a neophyte in something, that you should be silent and quiet. Why? Because you're not mature enough in the information to actually speak about it. And this is something that I think our good brothers need to take heed to, because they don't have enough information, one, to share in an authoritative way, and then to actually try to debate. And this is why I tell people I don't debate, I teach. And so on our screen right here, I have what's called the 2 types of nouns. Now, people may not realize this, but the English word noun that we use today comes from the Latin word nomen, and it means name or noun. Now, there are 2 types of nomens. There's one called a substantive. In the Latin, it would be substantivum. And the other one is adjectivum. We call it an adjective. So what happened in English, we actually swapped this word substantive. We changed that to noun. And what happens is it loses the branching to let us know that actually what we call nouns today and what we call adjectives today are actually 2 types of the same thing. If we knew that, then people wouldn't walk around and repeat every 2 minutes out their mouth, adjectives can be nouns, adjectives can be nouns. Because we would already know, people who study this already know that adjectives and nouns that we call them today are the same. So those of us who actually study the grammar, we use the word substantive so that we can keep this branching effect and understand what's going on. So a substantive is the same as an adjective. The only difference is that an adjective refers to an entity just like a substantive does, but an adjective also refers to a property of that entity. That's why they have the prefix ad. The Latin word adjectivum means to add on or to add near something. So they added on a second phenomenon to the first. So they took a substantive and they added another thing to it, which is to describe a property of something, and they called it an adjectivum, adjective. That's all. So adjectives and substantives are the same thing. 2 of the same thing. This is why in the ancient Egyptian language that adjectives syntactically behave just like nouns. All right, so I'm going to show you this real quick. So we're going to have a quick lesson on adjectives. And I'll try to be fast but thorough at the same time. All right. I don't want to take too much time from people who have been patiently watching. So adjectives. What are adjectives? Adjectives are a syntactic category of words used to modify, describe, or qualify a noun phrase, or a pronoun, giving more information about the referent. Accordingly, adjectives indicate such things as size, measure, and measurement, tall or long, feelings or qualities, lonely or honest, nationality or origin, Kenyan or American, characteristics, flashy or sharp, age, young or old, Properties, wooden or cotton. Shape, round or square. Judgment or value, awesome, pointless. Condition, rugged, volatile. Color, green, blue. Or weight, heavy, light. Here's some Rodney Kemet examples. By the way, Rodney Kemet is the indigenous name of the language. All right, so whenever you hear me say Rodney Kemet, I'm talking about the ancient Egyptian language. So here's some examples. We have Nefer, good, and Ben, which covers value, which is bad. Desher and Kim, black, which is and red for colors. Shape, shafu, swollen, wasek, wide, etc. So I'm not going to read them all, but these are just some examples. Now, Rodney Kemet adjectives may be divided into two main categories: qualifying adjectives and relational adjectives, also called Nisbi adjectives. All right, the word Nisbi comes from the Arabic grammar, and it's a word that means relation. Okay, so remember, there's two kinds of adjectives: qualifying adjectives and relational adjectives. And students who follow their God, James P. Allen, will say primary adjectives. All right. So I noticed that Brother Reggie calls Europeans gods, though, tonight. He's the only one that did that. So, in the spirit of what Reggie did, I just want to point that out. But James P. Allen will call them primary adjectives. So watch for people who say primary adjectives, and you can tell who they're a student of, okay, as a FYI. But they're called qualifying adjectives and relational adjectives that are nicknamed Nisbis, all right? So I just want to explain, like I said, I'm not going to dwell on this because my intent is not to give an exhaustive lesson. This is something that I teach. I've been teaching for over 7 years, about 8 years now, all right? So I'm not trying to give a whole lesson, but I need to cover enough so you'll understand what the issues are tonight when they try to talk about a rule that they don't understand. So, qualifying adjectives, what are they? A qualifying adjective is an adjective that denotes either a property or a property and an entity at the same time. One of the most common qualifying adjectives is the word nefer. When denoting just a property, it means good or beautiful. But when denoting a property and an entity together, it means good one or beautiful one. Qualifying adjectives that refer only to a property are used as predicates, also referred to as predicative adjectives, in adjectival sentences. In this use, they are invariable, which means they exhibit no declensional endings for gender or number except in the simple form of the masculine singular. In other words, that when they're used as predicates, they don't have the declensional endings to show gender and number, plural or whatnot. They come in one form, which is masculine singular. So in here, I say adjectival sentences will be taken up later, but here's an example. Nefer heret ten. The adjective comes first. The sentence means this flower is beautiful. But if I were to read it in its order that we see, it's nefer heret ten, which would be beautiful flower this. The adjective comes first. The adjective is masculine singular, but what it's describing is feminine singular. Heret, flower, is feminine. So I'm just showing an example. This is an example of an adjective that is used as a predicate. And it's only referring to a property, not an entity and a property at the same time. Why? Because the entity is spoken of. Flower, heret. All right? Now, a qualifying adjective that refer to a property and an entity are variable, which means they do go through all the declensional endings that nouns or substantives go through for gender and number. The gender and number endings refer to the entity denoted by the adjective. So here's an example using the same adjective, nefer, masculine singular, nefer, dual, neferwi, plural, neferu, feminine, neferet, dual, neferti, and plural, neferut, or neferwet, as some people may pronounce it. So they go through the same morphological, they behave the same way morphologically as substantives. Why? Because of what I said earlier. And here's why. Adjectives describe entities as well as the properties, whereas substantives only refer to entities. So we have two qualifying adjectives. A property by itself, it's invariable. It exhibits no declensional endings. It only exists in the masculine singular. If they deal with a property and an entity at the same time, they are variable, and they go through all of the changes that substantives or nouns go through. This is why when people who don't know and they find out, they may be shocked, and they have to repeat it over and over again. Adjectives can be nouns. Adjectives can be nouns. Like, okay, we know that. All right. Just to continue, just a little bit more with this. Qualifying adjectives that denote a property and an entity may be used independently or dependently. So remember, I'm only talking about this kind of adjective now, the ones that denote a property and an entity. Remember, they are variable, and so they can be used independently or dependently. When used independently, they function as substantives. That is, a substantival adjective. In fact, the grammar tradition of Greek and Latin, from which many descriptive linguistic terms originate, adjectives were considered one subtype of nouns. This is what I said already, along with substantives being the other. They were referred to in Latin as nomen adjectivum and nomen substantivum. An example of a qualifying adjective used independently is neferet. This is what they like to use. This is what the brother Reggie pulled up. This is what the brother Ned pulled up. Being used independently, neferet. Remember, if it denotes an entity and a property, it means beautiful one. Where nefer refers to the property beautiful, and the t, bread loaf, ending refers to a singular feminine entity, one. So we would have to translate it in English as one, beautiful one. We are not informed on whether the singular feminine entity is a human, an animal, or a thing. We know nothing if we just see it like this. Determinatives or classifiers, or as we also call semantimes, assist with the informing us of this, as in these examples. So we have wab, pure one. It's describing an entity and a property, but we have no idea what the entity is. So the scribes helped us out by putting a determinative there. Now we know we're talking about a pure man or pure human being. Wab, this is the same word, wab. Both of these words are wab. A feminine example, neferet by itself. All we know that it means beautiful one, but we don't know what one is. But now the scribes helps us out. They put a determinative there. Semantics helps out the meaning. A beautiful cattle or bovine or cow or bull. Now we know. Okay? Now, when used dependently, and this will be the last thing on this, they are often referred to as attributive adjectives and have the following characteristics. They are placed after the substantive to which they refer, forming a substantival phrase, which is explained later. 2, they agree with the substantive in gender and number. So here's some examples. And this is what Asar mentioned earlier. We have set weret. The word set means seat. Weret means great. Set is feminine and singular. Therefore, weret has to be feminine and singular. So you see the bread loaf for set and the bread loaf for weret. Great seat. That's a feminine example. Here's a masculine example. Netcher ah. Netcher is masculine singular. Therefore, the attributive adjective that's modifying it is also masculine singular. Ah. If this was feminine, it would be netcheret ait. But it's not. All right? So I'm not going to go any further with that, but there's more about that. This particular diagram is showing that what people are calling a feminine T is not necessarily a feminine T, just like the 3 strokes is not necessarily plural. Okay? The bread loaf also denotes abstraction. So I give examples here. Benet, that which is evil. Jut, that which is bad. From the word Jew. Nefret, that which is good. So this T is not always only a gender morpheme denoting feminine. All right, and we call these a portmanteau morphemes, where one morph will represent multiple morphemes at the same time. But like I said, these are things that we discuss in actual grammar classes about the language. So I don't want to go too far and extend the conversation about this. So that's with that. All right. Now I want to quickly go over to nouns that we call substantives. And let me just find my cursor here. So again, just to reiterate, so everyone will understand that why we use the word substantive and not noun. So we make use of the word substantive instead of the commonly used noun. The English word noun comes from the Latin nomen, noun, name, or noun. In the grammatical tradition of Greek and Latin, from which many descriptive linguistic terms originate, substantives were considered one of the subtypes of nomen, nouns, along with adjectives being the other. They were referred to in Latin as nomen substantivum and nomen adjectivum. I already said that. As we will see later, this accounts for the close similarities in the morphological behavior between nouns and adjectives. So we have 2 types of nouns, substantives and adjectives. And so we give examples of nouns. So substantives or nouns are a syntactic category of words used to refer to people, objects, creatures, places, qualities, phenomenon, and abstract ideas as if they were all things. And so here's some examples of person, object, creature, place, quality, phenomenon, abstraction. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see them and pause this when you get a chance. Now, the reason why I am showing all of this is because I want to skip down because like I said, I'm not trying to make and pick up where I left off. So hopefully you all can see my screen. And remember, press 1. Okay, I see people pressing 1. That means they can hear me. Okay, so let me go ahead and continue. So I don't have very long. Okay, so first, but let me reiterate. Well, I'll say this after. So where I left off at was I wanted to drive the point home that when people talk about grammar rules, people have to understand that grammar is 2 things at once. It's syntax and morphology. Okay, grammar is syntax and morphology. Morphology deals with from the level of word and below, what you call the atoms of words, deal with morphemes and such. And syntax deals with the level of word and above. So how words are distributed in phrases, clauses, and sentences, and how do they affect one another in context environments, okay? And above that, we have what's called semantics and pragmatics. So what we're dealing with is on the level of morphology and syntax, all right? So what I was explaining is that the rule that is trying to be cited but not really being cited is being misunderstood and tossed around, mentioned but not explained nor understood. So what I showed before was the fact that what we call nouns today and what we call adjectives today are really 2 types of the same thing. All right, that is not rocket science. Anybody who studies grammar knows this. All right, so it's not new. It may be new to a lot of people who are just getting into this, but it's not new to those who study. All right. Therefore, even in the Egyptian language that we call Rani Kemet, adjectives syntactically are distributed like nouns and morphologically behaves just like nouns. Why? Because they are a type of noun. It's just that simple. All right. There's nothing to hoopla about. They are a type of noun. All right. So what I was showing before I got cut off was, let's see if I get my cursor back here for you all. 1 second. My cursor. Okay. So what I was showing is what I want to point out. Like I said, this is not meant to be an exhaustive lesson, but I want to point out a couple of things. So what I want to point out here is the different types of substantives. And remember, I'm using substantive instead of noun. Okay. And I know a lot of people are not used to that word substantive, but we're going to have to start getting used to it when you want to jump into this arena and have these discussions. All right. So we have two major types of substantives: proper and common. Proper is easy. We understand proper substantive deals with definitive things, precise things. They're names of singular entities. So it could be a place, a person, it could be a person's name. And in English, we capitalize it. All right, so those are real easy. Now, what I want to focus on is another larger branch called common substantives. And they have different subtypes. We have count, mass, abstract, concrete, and collective. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because that people believe that the three strokes that you see in Egyptian words are plural. And this is a mistake that rookies make and people who are new to this may make. And so we have to, explain this. So I want to jump down I'm going to explain what count, mass, and all of these mean very briefly. So a count substantive is, as the name implies, it's a common substantive that refers to entities, typically objects, that are individuated and can be counted. So it's real simple. So it's just, that's the basic thing that everybody understands. So the objects, I can put numbers in front of them. I could say 3 books, 2 books, 1 book, and so on and so forth. I put a plural marker. In English, we use S or ES in some cases. And in ancient Egyptian, there's a way to mark the plural. So count substantives, you can make a distinction between singular and plural. So there's a contrast that can be made with count nouns or count substantives. Now, on the other hand, mass nouns or mass substantives are uncountable. It's a common substantive that typically refers to substances, that exist in bulk or unspecified quantities and cannot usually be counted in their primary senses. It has a syntactic property that any amount of it is treated as a single unit, and for the most part, it occurs only in the singular. Note that some mass substantives name continuous substances such as honey, water, so liquids. So let me give you an example. Rice. Rice is a mass noun because when we say rice, give me a bowl of rice. Rice has a whole bunch of little rice in it, but it's counted as a singular unit. Sand is another example. Sand is made up of many, many small pebbles of it, but we say sand. And usually for mass nouns or mass substantives, we have to include a measure, what's called a measure word. So I have to say, give me a teaspoon of butter. Give me a cup of water. Give me a handful of sand. You see what I'm saying? So give me, 3/4 of a cup of rice, etc. All right. Now, they show up looking plural, but they're syntactically treated singular. All right. So that's what I want to point out. And I want to jump down to collective substantives or collective nouns. A collective substantive or noun is a common substantive that refers to a group of people or things that are taken together as a unit and spoken of as a whole. So English example is an army or a gang, as well as various names of packs of animals. So we have a troop of apes, etc. Collectives are generally countable, though some are not. They agree grammatically with the verb in either the singular or plural. Likewise, their pronouns are either singular or plural. So I'm going to jump on down to a collective. I want to show you some examples here. So again, like I said, I'm skipping a lot because this is really for an entire lesson, but I want to show some examples here. All right, so let me show you some examples first off with false duals and false plurals. All right, just to give you an example here. So here's some common false duals. The word niuti, as you can see on the screen, it means local. It has the appearance of a dual. However, it is a Nisbi adjective derived from a singular feminine substantive niut, which is a word for city, town, or village. Used in the phrases such as Netcher niuti, which means local god. But some people will think this means two cities or two villages. All right. So if I show you the false plurals, here's some examples. Asar had showed a couple of these already. Of the singular masculine substantives ending in W that are derived from verbs, some are abstract substantives and can therefore take a three-stroke determinative, giving the appearance as if they are plural, but they're not. The word ya'u would means adoration, but look, three strokes. That's not plural. That shows abstraction. Has the appearance of a plural, however, it is a masculine singular substantive derived from a verb. So this quail chick here is a what we call a derived or a derivative morpheme. All right. It changes the class of word from a verb over into a different class of what we call a substantive or noun. Ya'i, to adore, changes now to adoration. It went from a verb to a noun, and that process is what we call nominalization. All right. Another example, the word menu, which means that which remains, the deeds, the works, has the appearance of a plural. However, it is a masculine singular substantive derived from the verb men, which means to be stable, to remain. The term is used in the following common expression. We have ir in f, im menu f, ni it f, which means he built as his work or monument to his father. All right, it looks plural, as you see here. It looks plural, but it's not. Another example, these three glyphs here gives the appearance of plural in this form or this form. It's the word neferu. People may believe that's plural, but it's not. It's a noun. It means perfection. It has the appearance of a plural. However, it is a masculine singular substantive derived from the verb nefer, which means to be perfect. All right. The term is used in the feminine anthroponyms. For example, neferu ra, which means the perfections of Ra. Last example, the word inu, which means production, produce, something that people bring, tribute. It has the appearance of a plural. However, it's a masculine singular substantive from the verb ini, which means to bring. And you'll see this in tribute scenes. You'll see this word a lot. The term especially used referred to everything brought back from a foreign expedition. So I'll give an example. So here's an example of mass substantives that look plural but are not. We have the word irep, which means wine. It looks plural with the three strokes, but that's not a plural marker. Nebu, gold. Looks plural, but it's not. Singular. Merhet, oil. Looks plural, but it's not. It's singular. Why? It's a mass substantive, treated as singular. And here's example of collective substantives. And I hope people are paying attention, especially Ned and Neb. All right. We have a word, masha, which looks plural, but it's singular. And how do we know that? There's something in syntax called a concord or agreement, where we notice in English, like, for example, in English, I don't say I is, I say I am. But if I say he, I have to say he. I don't say he am, I say he is. I have to change that verb because it has to agree in gender and number with the subject. So that's an example of concord in English. This happens in a lot of languages around the world, and ancient Egyptian is one of those as well. So in this particular example, I have the word masha pen. The word pen is a demonstrative. That means this. This demonstrative is masculine singular, pen. Therefore, the word masha is masculine singular. Masha pen means this army. The word army is a masculine collective, which means that many people, troops, are treated as one unit. On the feminine side, we have the same example. We have men, menet, ten. Pen and ten are both demonstrative, pen being masculine, ten being feminine, singular. So this is a feminine singular demonstrative. Why? For the feminine singular noun or substantive. It looks plural, but it's not. It's syntactically singular. It behaves singular. Okay? So we have men, menet, ten, this herd. So a herd of cattle, it's a whole bunch of cattle there, but it's treated as one unit. Okay? So I wanted to go over those things to explain some grammar, some actual grammar to you all. All right? This is how you explain grammar. All right? You don't just mention it and actually halfway mention it and really not even understand it. All right? So that's from substantive. So now I want to quickly go over and finish out with where I started. Now I'm going to explain what a Nisbe is. All right, I try to do this as quickly but thoroughly as I can. So 1 second, let me just get my cursor over there. So here we are at Nisbes. Now remember, I said that there are two types of adjectives: qualifying adjectives and relational adjectives. And remember, relational adjectives are Nisbes. Nisbe is just a nickname that people use from the Arabic language, meaning relationship. Okay, so now I'm talking about the relational adjective, which are Nisbes. Now, Nisbes adjectives are formed from a substantive or a preposition by adding the suffix of the diagonal strokes here, which we transliterate as a y, in the masculine singular, which is written before determinatives. Like the qualifying adjectives, Nisbe adjectives refer to properties, and their meanings indicate a relationship with the term from which they are derived. The one from, the one who is, that which is from, or that which is. So, remember, Nisbes are formed from either substantives or prepositions. So, I'm only going to go over briefly the substantival forms, the ones that are formed from substantives. Okay? The substantive form is a Nisbe adjective that's derived from a substantive and shows the same declensional endings as qualifying adjectives. That is, the substantive itself plus the y for the Nisbe, and then whatever declensional endings for gender and number. When a Nisbe is derived from a substantive, that substantive may originally be masculine or it may be feminine. Regardless of the gender of the original substantive, the resulting Nisbe adjective will have a full set of adjectival endings expressing gender and number. So that's these endings here. So basically, in other words, it doesn't matter what gender the original substantive is, the resulting Nisbe, once you make it into a Nisbe, it will also receive a whole set of possible endings to match the gender and number. So among other things, this means that masculine substantives may give rise to feminine Nisbe forms, just as feminine substantives may give rise to masculine Nisbe forms. In both the singular and plural, duals are exceptionally rare. So this Y ending is frequently omitted in the writing. So only context and experience will allow, the ambiguity. So here's just some examples. So here's an example of a masculine, a Nisbe form from a masculine substantive. So we're going to use the word Netcher, God or divine. All right. To make it a Nisbe, we would add the Y on there. So it would be Netcheri, which means divine one. And it's derived from the substantive Netcher. So here's the paradigm. So we have the singular, Netcheri, divine one. Masculine, Netcherit, divine one, feminine. Plural, Netcheriu for masculine, and Netcheriut or wet for feminine plural. All right. That's from a masculine. Notice those endings. Here's a Nisbe derived from feminine substantives. So we're going to use a different one. We're going to use the word mehet. So meheti northern one is a Nisbe derived from the substantive mehet, which means north. Remember, Nisbes show a relationship from the word that it's derived from. So north becomes northern one or northerner. So here's an example. So we have masculine singular, meheti. Remember, the original substantive was feminine. But the end result is that the whole Nisbe is masculine by adding the Y. Meheti, northerner, masculine. Mehetit, northerner, feminine. This is why you see that double bread loaf there that people always ask about. Mehetit, plural. Mehetiu. There's that G4 buzzard, TU, that I showed you that the brother Reggie showed us when he was trying to discount Ogden Goulet. So we have Mehetiu, the northern ones, masculine, plural. Mehetiut, the northern ones, plural, feminine. All right. And so in here I expressed that the G4 is not to be mistaken with the G1 because they kind of look alike, especially in damaged glyphs that you see because they're so old, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to point out what a Nisbes are, because so now I want to go back over to something that I showed here. Let's go back. Give me 1 second here. Just want to change over. Get my screen here. All right, so okay, so what I want to show here is to emphasize that let's see, where is it? I want to show you how Nisbes function and the fact that we are already used to them. All right, and I believe that I'm going to have to show it on a different way. Bear with me 1 second. All right, so hopefully you all can see my screen. So very quickly, I wanna go back over this again. Remember, toponyms deal with places. That's it. It never refers to or describes people. All right, I don't have to go over that again, but everybody should be aware of that at this point. Okay, that's what a toponym is. The argument has always been about the toponym. Okay, out of convenience, the toponym issue has been avoided by both the brother Reggie and the brother Netcher. All right. And as a result, the only thing that we've experienced and listened to tonight, as well with the other time that the brother Netcher gave his videos, plural, is really to just showcase information that's irrelevant to the topic question. And like the brother Reggie said tonight, that he feels that the brother Netcher made his case, which proves that the brother Reggie did not understand the question, which is what I tried to do on the onset to describe what the actual question is. It is the meaning of the toponym or the place name for Kemet. This is something that Asar had in his slide. The brother Reggie even showed the slide and quoted from it and showed it tonight. But for some reason, both brothers overlooked that. And so what Netcher ended up doing when all the smoke clears is that Netcher basically did a show and tell episode where he showed people that after 2 years of studying and learning and trying to debate and fight with people, that he can finally now begin to find cognates in African languages. That's it. That's all that we saw in Neterneb's entire presentation. Tonight with the brother Reggie, all that we saw was that the brother Reggie did not understand the question, and he as well did the same thing that Neb did, except absent the showcase of trying to find cognates in languages. Brother Reggie went the other direction to try to deal with chronology, which he showed the earliest form, which really wasn't the form, as I showed, and was already familiar with. And then also to show the material culture with pottery and things of that nature that has nothing to do with the fundamental question of the semantic or the meaning of the word Kim inside the word Kemet. What does Kemet mean? That is a linguistic question, and admittedly by Brother Reggie, that is outside his scope of study and expertise. But he chose to come on board and give a presentation tonight. So what I want to finish up with, again, to reiterate that the question has always been about the meaning of the toponym or the place name of Kemet. And place names never refer to people. That rules out the fact that it means black people. Okay? As I said before, Shekinah Diop, he made a statement that he was going against the name referring to the land, the color of the land. But as we saw, both Brother Reggie and Neb went against Diop and are trying to push that Kemet means black land. Okay, matter of fact, Neb is saying that he's going to do a presentation and advertising for another website and so on and so forth. That he's going to do a presentation to show that Kemet is referring to the land. The Egyptians did something with the land, et cetera, which is against what Diop was saying. Diop was saying, no, it's referring to the people. So we have a confusion going on as well. So I want to point that out, that there's a little bit of confusion among the brothers as to the question. All right. So with that, I want to say that if I'm going to give some examples, so of how Kemet is used and how we can relate to it today. All right. If I am born and raised in Jamaica, all right, Jamaica is a toponym. It is a place name. If I want to refer myself to myself and my people, I will call myself or my people Jamaican, singular, me, or Jamaicans, plural. All right. So notice that I have to take the toponym and do something to it. I have to take Jamaica. I'm not Jamaica, but I have to take the word Jamaica and do something to it to make it refer to me, to make me relate to it. I have to turn it into a Nisbe. So I have to say I'm Jamaican. If I'm from Canada, Canada is a toponym. It's a place. If I wanted to make myself related to it, either belong to it or be from it or I originate from there, etc., I have to turn it into a Nisbe. So I have to say I am Canadian. Russia is a place. If I refer to the people, I would say Russian. Saudi Arabia is a place. We refer to the people as Arabians. India is a place. I have to change India to Indians or Indian for a singular person. Notice what I'm doing. I'm taking the toponym and I'm doing something to it to change it into a relational adjective called a Nisbe. Kemet is no different. So I want to show you that in the language, there's a way to do it as well. So you take the toponym, which is a place, Kemet, and you change it into a Nisbe. And what you're seeing on the screen here is the plural form of it. So if I want to say I am related to, or I am of, or I belong to this place called Kemet, I will call myself Kemetiu, which is plural. And we would say something like commission, like how we say America and American. All right. Cambodia, Cambodian. Korea, Korean. Kemet, Kemishin. That's how some people would render it. But it actually means those of the place. Just like American, that means Americans means those of America. Mexicans, those of Mexico. It doesn't describe the people. The toponym itself doesn't describe the people. We can make the people related to the toponym by doing what I just said. All right? So I want to point those things out because another thing that Sheikh Anta said that is incorrect, and it wasn't based on an assumption, but he just said it was incorrect, is that he said that the Egyptians only had one term to refer to themselves. And we all know, or should know, that that's just not true. Whether we want to admit it or not and play like, we don't see it, but that's just not true. We know that the Egyptians used as an endonymic ethnonym, which means they named themselves, they called themselves the Remich. And where were they from? They call themselves, they say Remich ni Kemet, or Remich Kemet, the people of Kemet. Remich was their ethnonym, Kemet was their toponym. Simple as that. Self-named, Remich. Everyone knows this. So it's not Kemet as the only name, as Sheikh Anta asserted. We know them as the Remich. In fact, even in trying to prove their blackness, a picture is used, even by Diop himself. So I wouldn't say Diop is wrong. This is something that's just an oversight, because he shows a picture from a tomb where the Remich look like the Nehesiyu. And he shows that the Egyptians call themselves Remich, and the people south of them were called Nehesiyu, those from Ta Nehisi. People like to call Nubia. So somewhere along the lines, it must have got lost in the sauce, but that's not the only name. Kemet was not a name for the people at all. It's Kemetiyu, and their ethnonym would be, their relational adjective would be Kemetiyu, and their ethnonym would be the Remich. All right? And so last thing I'm going to say, and this is it. Demonym, I didn't talk about this. When I said relational adjective, when I give the examples of America versus American, Mexico versus Mexican, Jamaica versus Jamaican, etc., these are called technically demonyms. These are names of people that are named after the place that they reside. So Jamaicans as a word would be a demonym, because it's connected to the place name where they reside, Jamaica. Texan, people who live in Texas. Georgian, Washingtonian, New Yorker. We have different ways that we can form these words, but the point here is that the toponym never refers to people, always a place. Now, you can make people related to the place by changing the toponym up a little bit. These are called demonyms. All right? So make sure you look this up and everything. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. The brother Asar Imhotep already showed this, where the third person singular, feminine singular pronoun is referring back anaphorically to its antecedent, which is Kemet, showing you that this is not plural. All right? This is treated as a unit, and it's the personification of the nation. All right? Make sure I'm not missing anything. I already went over that. Explain what a nation is. That's the same, basically the same thing. And here's just an example again of the nation of the riparian country that Asar already went over and went through. And so the final analysis of what Kemet means is that it simply means the riparian country. Brother Asar Imhotep already gave you the definition, but here it is again. It's related to or situated on the banks of a river, related to wetlands adjacent to rivers and streams. And everyone and their mother knows that Kemet is all about that river. Why we even call it the Nile Valley civilization. Nile Valley civilization all day long. Everybody always says that Nile Valley civilization, Nile Valley civilization, Nile Valley civilization. They started off by saying Nile. What is the Nile? It's a river. So in our minds, we already know this. But because we are tethered to the idea of black and black and black and this and black and that, we got to make everything black. King James, people talking about King James is black. Everybody's black now. So we don't need that anymore. Scientists, we follow the evidence. We don't need that. We know that the Egyptians today will be called black people. We know this. Their language is situated nicely in Africa, related to African languages. We know this. The DNA test done on mummies, we know that those haplogroups are coming back thoroughly African. We don't have to use propaganda and say things like the word Kemet means black people when toponyms never refer to people, ever, ever. So, like I said, these three variations is how you're going to see the kingdom being referred to, Kemet, from the 11th dynasty forward. Kemet, 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 in these three ways. Even when you see it this way, it's referring to the personification of the nation. And this is why I have here in this slide, what is a nation? So let me read this real quick. A people or an aggregation of men and women existing in the form of an organized jural society, inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth, speaking the same language, using the same customs, possessing historic continuity, and distinguished from other like groups by their racial origin and characteristics, and generally, but not necessarily, living under the same government and sovereignty. Everything I just said here describes the Rimage. And their personification as a nation is what you're looking at right here. That's why in this text, it says, he came, ENF, Sa'unkenef, Kemet, Chasurenef, Shenenu S. This is saying that he came and he caused the nation of Kemet to live. Or he enlivened the nation of Kemet and he dispelled its afflictions. It's just that simple. All right, so with that, I'm gonna wrap up. And I know if we're gonna have a discussion, I know Brother Reggie wants to have some words and things like that, and maybe it may spark some more conversation. So I'll just end there.
Yeah, so thank you. So I won't be long because it's late. I'm going to just say a couple of things, and most of it is just a complaint. First of all, I was responding to what Asar and Netcher's conversation. I was responding to the points in that. I trusted you, Wudjau, to in the beginning. You said that you would preface it. I didn't know that you was going to add a slide that kind of narrowed it, though the debater did not add that slide, and I trusted you, good brother. You had a right to do it. I mean, you did it. I don't think that was good because that was someone else's debate. It wasn't your debate. I responded to Asar not describing the rule or the rule that he was using. Whether or not you can eloquently describe your point, I think that you just described your point. If I had heard the point, I would have made some other points. The issue was, my response was to basically respond to what I said. There are some things you are admittedly more accurate in some regard. But when I read the plate from Kurt Cease, when I was reading that, I was saying that, of course, there were other Kemets. And I didn't. And the fact of the matter is that in my last two slides, which was important, that I didn't get to talk about, I was going to talk about Tjinnu. And Tjinnu was a confederation of countries or places, of maybe even nationalities or cities or groups or tribes. And many of them had the different Kemet names or names that connected it, like Kim Ware, the Kemet example the Kemet example. But the Kemet example that I showed you, it actually had a nuid. You didn't say anything about that. But it didn't matter what you said. It wasn't your, it was based on what Asar said. So I don't think that was fair. I was rushed off and I spoke 2 hours. You spoke 2 hours and Asar spoke 2 hours, right? That's 4 hours and I couldn't even finish my presentation. That's not acceptable. The other thing is that the Diop was talking about Kemet, and he was talking about nationality. So when he talked about the strongest term, he was actually trying to talk about nationality. He later said that. One accurate point is that I do think, because I gave an example, that Kemet could point to land, depending on the determinative. It could point to nationality. It could point to a number of things, because the adjective qualifies the determinative. And that was my point to Asar. I appreciate your thinking, but honestly, in this case, almost all that you said was irrelevant to my response. This is just saying Brother Reggie is wrong. Now, about Kurt C's plate, it is difficult to find not what it's translated to in its different formats. It's just difficult to find that plate for the average individual. So when I used that plate, I was using that to talk about later the confederations of African tribes, of little Kemet, which Mentuhotep seized upon to name the entire country Kemet. And so I didn't get to point to more eloquently make that point. So basically, I'm not challenging what you know as far as Egyptian grammar. I said that in the very beginning. I was careful. You definitely know more Egyptian grammar than I do, much more about the language than I do. That's because that's not my life. That's not how I make my money. That's not how I feed my family. That is just something that I'm committed to. That doesn't mean that I'm always right. But in the case of this, I responded to what I heard. Adding slides is east-fed, narrowing it down to after you think about what was done and maybe what was weak, to add a slide and then say that I commit to it. So I did this for a record. The most important thing is conduct, good conduct, right? Good conduct. I had good conduct in this, given the terms, the meaning conversations. I don't know enough about linguistics. No, I know enough about what you said. Again, I am an average African, right? That is self-made with my abilities through my education and the respect of my elders. I do want to say, whether you know it or not, or you care about it or not, right? Good conduct goes a great place. There are national associations, there are earnest leaders, but when they find out that your conduct is not good, and I'm not saying all of your conduct is not good, you still my brother, right? But this was a debate of Netanyahu and Asar Imhotep. There are points that Asar did not make. I just brought that to the attention of the audience. Y'all spent 4 hours dealing with my 2-hour response. So we're brothers. I'm going to go to sleep. And I hope you have a good night.
Wait, don't go to sleep yet, though.
No, I'm going to sleep. You cannot tell me what to do.
No, wait. First of all, I'm not telling you. I'm just. That's a gesture. So let's not get too silly now. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, Brother Reggie. I think I've spent up. I wasn't expecting to be up for 4 hours listening to you. Okay, can you spare another? Can you spare 10 minutes? 10 more minutes?
No, because you could have let me make my 5-minute presentation.
You said no,
but you did not want to. You wanted to completely
that's fine.
prove to me And I don't think that was fair because I just said I only have 5 minutes. So
Okay,
I
that's fair.
actually have 3:50. I stayed up out of respect for you, good brother.
That's fine.
Right?
Okay.
But I am but
So-
that part is over.
Okay,
This
so that's a
part
no.
this part is just a complaint about conduct. And there are
Okay.
a lot of people in this community that is going to watch this. And you
So I'm gonna respond to your charge of my misconduct though, and I want you to be here for that. That's all I was asking. So if
no,
you're
I'm
not, that's
I'm
fine.
not,
Okay.
Because you
That's-
could have
Okay, and that's cool.
let me, you could have, because many of the things that you were talking about had nothing to do with Kemet. So you can, it is mine. It may not be true. You can respond to the audience.
Oh,
I do not appreciate you putting in a slide that assault, whether it was there or not. He had a conversation with Netcher, right?
Okay.
And all these comments about Netcher and all of these things, like he does not know and this, that, the third.
Yes.
He responded to what he. So listen, I have a it's 4 o'clock. I actually have to get
I
up
understand.
by 10 o'clock.
Okay,
so,
I understand.
Your brother, you my brother, Wudjau.
Yes.
I think that you are an excellent scholar, right? But this conversation was my response.
I understand that.
All right.
Okay,
So
I appreciate
it
that.
has nothing to do with me and you.
Okay.
Peace to you, brother. I hope to see you again and talk to you. We'll talk about something else. I probably won't go back to this conversation. But
Okay.
listen, I love you. I love your work. I just don't like being double teamed when I was talking when I was talking to a single individual.
Okay.
That is my you if you have a fight, you can't talk about the fight after it. It's when you're in the fight, right? Okay?
I understand.
So good night.
Okay, all right. Peace to you, and you know, definitely no love lost whatsoever. So,
Okay, because I know that's how you are. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
That's
I'm-
why I don't deal with you.
I understand, but you included Wudjau at the
Yeah,
beginning.
hold on. Sorry. Let me just get 5 minutes to say this, because just in case Reggie does have a little bit of time to listen, I want to say this for the listeners, real quick, and I'll just turn over to you, Asar. I just want to say something real quick, because I hear what Reggie said, and so I want to first say that the charges that Reggie just levied on me are completely false.
Okay.
That
So
wait. Let me finish.
No. Good night, because you added a slide.
Okay.
You added a slide. You tailored it.
You already said that.
So now I still love you. We'll talk about something else at another time.
Okay, great.
But at that point, you added a slide that wasn't in the argument. You tailored it.
I got you.
After the point. So
Okay.
good night.
All right, good night. All right, Shem Imhotep. So, what I'm saying to continue is that everything that Reggie said just now, the charges he levied against me, are completely false. All right. One, that I shared the same slides that Brother Reggie shared from Asar Imhotep, and I'm gonna quickly show the slides that I shared. Okay, I shared this slide, which Brother Reggie shared himself. Okay, you can see biggest day place name is right there. So I didn't narrow anything down to the place name. This was in the original conversation between Asar and Netcher. This is a screenshot from Asar's presentation from that day. And in fact, the brother Reggie also shared this slide. You can go back to the video and watch it. The brother Reggie had these slides in his presentation. Okay, so I didn't add this. This is not some slick stuff or some it's fet stuff, or anything like that. See, don't get keying on those words. People try to use these words and they don't apply. All right, so that's number one. The brother Reggie showed this slide also. Okay, I just want to make that very clear, that during Netcher and Asar's talk, the original time, the moderator, the good brother Wudjau, he did not present the scope of the conversation, which is why Netcher went outside the scope of the conversation and just showed the fact that he could find a couple of cognates. That's it. So I shared this. Reggie shared this. Okay. This slide about Diop, I shared this. This is from Asar's presentation. So this is not something new. This is not what Wudjau added to the conversation or anything. This is what the brother Asar Imhotep had already shared. All right. This right here, this slide right here. Guess what? The brother Reggie shared this. This is Asar's argument. This is what Reggie was supposed to address tonight. So I didn't add this. I didn't create this slide. I didn't make this up. This is from Asar's original presentation that also the brother Reggie shared tonight. Okay? What's another one that Reggie shared? Reggie shared some other slides. So these are the slides I shared. None of these slides Wudjau made up. This is from Asar's argument.
I think he's talking about the one talking about what we're not arguing. I think that's the slide.
This slide here.
I can't, for some reason on this platform, I can't see your screen. I can only see it on the live feed, which means there's going to be a delay.
Okay, so yeah, I'm showing this slide. This slide, what the issue in question is not. This right here is just a matter of common deduction. Okay. These are the arguments here. This Asar says, what are the issues? These are the issues and the hypotheses. Simple as that. So everything outside of this is not what we're talking about. And so I point this out on this slide that that's not what we're talking about. So I'm actually streamlining the conversation to what it's supposed to be. And I think the brother Reggie is really upset is because now that he realized that he spent 2 hours and some change talking about something that we're really not talking about, he feels some kind of way. So he wants to charge me with misconduct, but it's not misconduct. That's number one. Number two, the brother Reggie had no reason, if he's going to address Asar, he had no reason to mention the brother Wudjau tonight at all. I was patient. Or Sanjetti. He had a slide that had my name in it. He had, not only did it have my name in it, but he also said commentary around it. He said that the brother Wudjau and Sanjetti, he said if da-da-da with Sanjetti, but with me, he was saying that I have to dismiss the grammar rule and this and the other. So he brought me into it in terms of the grammar rule. So that's why I went over the grammar rule tonight. That is not Isfet. I didn't mention Reggie. I came to listen. Reggie pulled me in here. Matter of fact, my whole conversation after Reggie finished was ad hoc, off the dome. I'm only sharing slides so that people can learn and see visuals. But I could talk about this in person with nothing in my hand at all from the dome. I do this all the time. Same thing with translations. All right. So I don't want people to get it twisted that that we're tag teaming on the brother Reggie. Reggie mentioned my name tonight. And I went second. Asar, I yielded to Asar, let Asar do his thing. And then I came just to explain that grammar rule that Reggie told me that I'm supposed to do. Listen, why would Reggie tell me what I must do in his slide, and then when I do it, complain? Okay, so that's not correct. So he wants to talk about behavior and stuff like that. Like I said, Reggie's a good brother, and there's no love lost at all. But I want everybody to understand that the brother must be feeling some kind of way, because usually when people do that, they feel like they lost something. They lost. Okay.
Well, he knows he lost, and that was clear as day once we proved to him that the issue was about toponyms.
Yeah, so but that was when we were on the phone. I told him.
That's what I'm saying. That's when he started getting more irate, because he thought he knew what the conversation was, and so when I kept saying that in the presentation that he didn't know what the conversation was, he didn't realize to what extent until the storm kicked you off, and we was having the discussion offline. So offline, he charged us with trying to introduce toponyms into the discussion, and that wasn't a part of Netter Nebs and I's initial conversation. So that's when we went back to that third slide, that The slide that he just showed with the word place names on it was my third slide. And so a place name is a synonym for toponym. But not only that, let me share the screen real quick.
All right, so I hope that's clear to everyone, because see, what happens is, I noticed this is what happens. A lot of people will say a bunch of stuff that they can't back up, and then when something happens as a consequence of what they say and what they do, then they want to cry victim. All right, so we're not having that. No love lost to the brother Reggie. The brother Reggie is cool, man. He's my brother, and it's all good. All good in the hood, as they say, all that good stuff. But I will not sit here and allow somebody to just indiscriminately charge me with isfet behavior or doing this and doing that when that is not true, and they're only doing it because there's an air of loss. Because this conversation was lost on the phone. We didn't even have to do this at all. And I told the brother that on the phone already. I said, listen, I like your enthusiasm, but you already lost. And he said, well, I think I could convince you. And so just real quick, what he was saying he could convince me on was this. And I already knew about this. I mean, like I said, this is old. That's not Kemet. And this is Kemet to you. And this is the determinative for a municipality where a cross section of water resides. And that is one of the many small Kemets within the greater Kemet that wasn't called Kemet until the 11th dynasty. So this was this is supposed to be the bombshell, and it didn't work. He lit the fuse, and it was a dud. So anyway, I'm sorry, but go ahead. Let me put your share on your screen. So you got it.
Yeah. So I was not only the slide that you showed has the word place name that you had highlighted or at least underlined. Remember, this is like slide 73. So I don't even know if he got all the way to the end of the presentation. But in this is from my original presentation that I did with Netcher. So as you can see, the first word in the slide is the word toponyms. And then you can see the synonym for toponyms, a place name. So the argument has always been on the place name Kemet. And so he tried to charge me with not addressing the T suffix in terms of grammar rules. This is one of the reasons why I had this slide here called the so-called feminine T suffix, and how I can show the same grammatical morpheme in the Chiluba language. But Chiluba doesn't have masculine and feminine like this. This is a noun classifier. It nominalizes verbs, and it puts it into the context of an abstract or these other classes. So like this chi is for fruit. Like fruit and all that goes under the chi class. Same thing with your mother and plants and animals. And again, this is more plants again. All this belongs under the chi nominal classifier. And so does place names. So I'm dealing with the toponym, the T on the suffix, the T suffix as it regards to place names. So I show that the same T or chi in Chiluba is used on place names in things dealing with spaces and as well as the abstract. And so I show the same thing in Egyptian. So all the place names and words dealing with spaces have the same nominal classifier in the language. So classifiers aren't just for graphical systems. They mirror the actual grammar of the language. So this is something I was pointing out. So I showed it again in amongst the Sumerians. So it's the same grammatical affix. So we had the same grammatical affix in Sumerian, Egyptian, and Bantu. And I showed earlier in our presentation today in college, and that's 4. Same grammatical morpheme. And so I showed it here. So I'm dealing with the grammar. See, he doesn't know this because he doesn't know linguistics. And this is why I kind of stressed to him. So he feels some kind of way because I pointed out that he's out of his league. And so he has no rebuttal. You notice he didn't attack any of this. He didn't bring up none of this. Because this would require some linguistic sophistication. And so, you know, the charges is I'm trying to keep the thing on topic. I'm the only one who gets into these debates that ever stays on topic. Everyone has all these other kinds of arguments. You know, the soil is black and it's red. Who cares? Deal with the word. Find the meaning of the word. You don't know if it means black. And so that's why we have a scientific method to eliminate bias. If I'm looking for black, then if I find black, or I'm going to interpret certain things as black, that's not scientific. And so he tries to throw, like Reggie and everybody else, they try to throw degrees and associations with certain people who have prominence. That scientists don't give a rat's ass. That doesn't mean anything. Because as you can see, with his degree, he could not stand on his own 2 feet. Neb, with his associations with so-called linguists and meta-Netcher scholars, he still could not stand on his own. And so that's all that matters in a scientific argument. Can you stand on your own? Can the evidence speak without I can give all of this information, you know, to, you know, someone else, a Mexican in Brazil, you know, a Mexican who moved to Brazil. The same information is going to mean the same thing. It doesn't matter who says it. And so, you know, this is why it's frustrating, because, you know, they waste our time with these arguments thinking they're going to bring something new and enlightening, and they don't. And their arguments fall to the wayside once you apply rigor to it. And so I'll end there.
Okay, just real quick. I'm just doing this for the record. I know it's late, and I really appreciate anyone who's still tuned in. But I just want to complete the record. That's one thing I definitely know to do is to complete the record. And just bear with me one hot second here. Just to let everybody know that as you can see here, wait a minute, I gotta share my screen. I'm sorry. I just want everybody to be able to see this. Okay, this is directly from the brother Reggie's presentation from tonight. All right. This is from the presentation tonight. All right, so hopefully everybody can see this. So the brother Reggie, although he would like to say, because of what I said tonight, he would like to exclude me, but he included me tonight. So you can see clearly that he said, and you know, he gave commentary while he was reading this. So I'm just showing the slide. You had to go back to the video and listen to what he said when he was showing this. But he said he's for the people on the first paragraph. So he's for Diop, Carruthers, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Koringa, Asa Hillard, Ankmi Ra, Obenga, Dr. Rikete Amen, and so on and so forth. That's who he's for, as y'all can see on the screen. And he's against. And he makes sure, you know, the brother. Now, I'm going to say, Brother Reggie conducted himself very well. So I'm not going to do what Reggie did and falsely accuse him. So I am going to say he conducted himself very well. So I want to acknowledge that. And even here, he says he's against intellectually. So we understand. He's against intellectually. Who, though? he doesn't just have Asar's name up here. Do you all notice that? He doesn't have Asar's name up here. Now, did the brother Wudjau have a discussion with Nether that day? No. The brother Wudjau did not have a discussion with Nether. So my name nor the brother Sanjetti's name should be included if the brother Reggie's intent was just to address brother Asar. So logical deduction is that Reggie was slickly trying to address me and Sanjetti at the same time. Over it, really. But, he did it on the slide. So he says, Asar Imhotep, Wudjau Irdima, I spell my name wrong, but Wudjau Irdima and brother Sanjetti. Only if he disagrees with Kim being black. Because he really wasn't even sure with Sanjetti. Now, check this out. So he's not even sure about Sanjetti, but he's going to put his name in there anyway. So Reggie did this, okay? And he said, and those of their team who challenged Middle Egyptian feminine T rule and diop for the adjective, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So I want to point this out that I didn't make this slide. Brother Reggie, this is his slide. He included my name in there, okay? So I don't want people to get it twisted and think that I'm double teaming or whatever the case is. Because I could have said a lot tonight. Like, really, and I probably will just do a whole video as a teaching moment because you got to use these things as teaching moment. But I want to point that out to people. And one more. Let me show another one. Because I just don't want people to walk away with the wrong impression. And see, this is what people do. They just say things. They don't demonstrate. What I'm doing is demonstrating. So I know y'all can still see my screen. I want to blow this up so everybody can see this as well. So this is another slide from Reggie's presentation tonight. Wait a minute, can y'all see that? Yeah, you should be able to see that. There's another slide from Reggie's presentation. He said, I watched the debate of Nether and Asar and said after I would have some responses to Asar and now proceed. So he's focused on Asar. But look at the last paragraph. He says, these are research topics in the Amen-Ra squad. All of these brothers are my friends, but I disagree with them, not him. Them. So again, this is anaphorically, as a grammar lesson for tonight. Them is anaphorically referring to who? Brother Wudjau and brother Sanjetti. He knows that only me, the brother Jonathan as well, but he didn't mention Jonathan on here. So out of us three, he knows out of the squad, Asar, myself, and brother Sanjetti, we're the ones that deal with Kemet and the language on a more regular basis. The brother Smash does as well, but he didn't include him. And Smash is working on some other projects, so you haven't heard from him recently. So he included us. So I just want to make that point very crystal clear that Reggie is just wrong for trying to accuse me of double teaming and all this and that. And then another thing is that I did not take 2 hours. When I spoke, I did not take 2 hours. So that was an exaggeration. So you got to watch for people who go off topic, use words out of context, and then exaggerate. Those 3 ingredients and more is a classic example. Now, y'all have to understand, I've debated formally on an amateur level, but formally. I know a lot of the tricks of the trade. I've heard it all, seen it all. I know all the little slick stuff, the games, and all that kind of stuff. And what we saw tonight is a classic example of somebody who was not really prepared to deal with the topic and tried to move the goalposts. And when we didn't allow that goalpost to be moved, the person is upset. So the brother Reggie is upset, falsely accusing me of taking 2 hours when I didn't, double teaming when I didn't. He mentioned my name. I wasn't going to say nothing tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like these slides right here, these are ad hoc slides I'm showing y'all. Like this right here, I just typed this. This right here, I just took a screenshot tonight. So none of this stuff was pre-planned. Who's that? Oh, that's Asar. So anyway, I just want to make that clear. I'm not gonna keep everybody. I know it's late. We got some people watching. Again, I appreciate those who are watching, people who are gonna be watching this video afterwards and things like that. So I don't know. Maybe I'll stitch the videos together because we had a technical issue with them coming apart. So I may download them and put the videos together and re-upload them. So I don't know if I'm gonna do that because then you'll lose the comments. And I like to keep the comments. I like to keep everything where it is. So we'll just leave it as it is. But anyway, hopefully people can learn from tonight. And this is an example of what not to do, which is why, as a moderator discussion, this wasn't a debate, all right? As a moderator of a discussion, the one of the jobs is to make sure that the discussion stays on point. Like for example, if you're a moderator in a Facebook group, and you put up a topic, everybody who posts a topic, you would like for people to stay on topic that you posted. You don't want to put up a topic of, basketball, and then somebody goes off and start talking about volleyball on your post. You see, so you want to moderate that. You want things to stay on topic, and so that's what this slide was about, to make sure everything stays on topic, which is in harmony with this first slide. These slides go together. This is from Asar's presentation. This is what I said to keep the conversation on point. And this is not something new. I told Reggie this over the phone. All these bullets here, I told him over the phone. So when Reggie uses words like "I trusted you" or something like that, that's misleading. Don't fall for that at all. Because Reggie was clear on this. I have witnesses, me, the brother Reggie, Sister Naya, and brother Uncle's on the phone at one point. Then it was just me, brother Reggie, and Uncle on the phone on a different occasion. Okay, so it's not like some one-on-one conversations either. So I want people to understand that. All right, this is how we get down. All right. So anyway, so sorry, I don't know if you had anything else.
No, I'm good. I'm going to sleep.
All right, yeah, I ain't realize it was so late. So anyway, we done, and like I said, no love lost. Brother Reggie, hey man, we're gonna do this again, but I'm sure we're gonna talk about a different topic. I think he's a little upset right now because it didn't come off the way he probably, how it played out in his mind and stuff like that, which I understand, man. So anyway, so I want to say. Hotep to everyone, and I appreciate everyone. Dua for coming out, and spread, share the link. It's 3 videos. I'm gonna rename the title so it'll make sense, but it's 3 videos, and that we're just gonna leave them that way. And so we'll see y'all next time. And this goes out for anybody who wants to deal with this topic question. Just watch the video because enough was said between Asar's original presentation, the couple of Facebook videos that people been doing, and then what's been on YouTube. It's pretty much, and then Asar is coming out with the book, so this is pretty much done. All right, stick a fork in this and it's done. Kemet does not mean black people, and it's a toponym, so it never refers to people, and then it refers to the type of country it is. It's a country that is inundated with water. Everyone knows about that. Everyone even calls it the Nile Valley civilization, the people of the Nile Valley, everything like that. What do you think Nile is? It's a river. All right. So it's just really that simple. All right. As far as grammar, if anybody wants to learn grammar, I'm currently teaching a grammar course. I teach a beginner's level. I've been teaching for about 8 years now. And if you want to learn grammar, really learn grammar and not make the mistakes that we've seen as of late about graphic transposition and the feminine T and stuff like that and everything like that. My name on Facebook is Wudjau.
Master P came in a situation where he put out records in a region that no.
Who's that? Oh, okay. I thought Unc woke up.
Well, started playing videos. I'm like, hey, what the?
Oh, okay. So yeah. So anyway, so if anybody's interested in learning, matter of fact, let me do this. I gotta do a shameless plug and close this out real quick. Let me see where are we at. Where am I at? Everybody doing shameless plugs but me. I always leave myself out. But if you want to enroll in the course on a beginner's level or not, there's no requirement, there's no prerequisite except that you just have interest. All right, if you're interested in learning the language, then go to saberuniversity.com. You'll see the course for the beginner's level as well as the grammar. All right, which is a more advanced level. So both of them are available. Go there for more information. saberuniversity.com. All right, the classes are very reasonable. And the way they're designed is that you can learn on your own pace, and you have access to live interactive sessions with a teacher, which is myself now, and fellow students. All right. And so you can learn about the feminine T, what it's all about, how the bread loaf is not always a marker for feminine, it's also a marker for other things at the same time, how those 3 strokes are not always plural, it's a marker for other things as well, and how it's a determinative, is never transliterated or pronounced, all that kind of good stuff. You'll learn about all of that good stuff. All right. So with that, I'm going to say Asar Imhotep.
Plato said that when you go to Kemet school, you became more alert. You made wake up, your spirit wake up. And you became a more human being. That your character is built in a school. When you study what you call classical studies, we must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Netcher. In Kemet, for me, is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.